The feeling is definitely there. It's a new morning in America. Fresh, vital. The old cynicism is gone. We have faith in our leaders. We're optimistic as to what becomes of it all. It really boils down to our ability to accept. We don't need pessimism. There are no limits.
It figures it would be something like this.
Our nation, our ideals of vision.
Excuse
We don't want
me.
to just survive.
You know,
We want to
you look like your head
succeed.
fell on the cheese dip back in 1957. You're okay. This one, real fucking ugly. You see, I take these glasses off, she looks like a regular person, doesn't she, huh? Put them back on, formaldehyde face. That's what we got.
Enough out of you. You get out or I call the cops.
Call the cops. You know what you need? You need a Brazilian plastic surgeon.
I've got one that can see.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves.
You are listening to the High Tech Low Life Podcast, a cyberpunk media retrospective. High Tech Low Life contains language and themes not suitable for all audiences, as well as spoilers for the content being covered. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back, everybody, to the High Tech Low Life Podcast with your hosts, Eric and Josh. Me llamo Eric.
Me llamo Josh.
And this week, as we are covering a classic film deserves to have a classic third mic. And with that in mind, we have got one of the most classic, Star Daddy Stan from the Astronomica Podcast.
Oh, thank you. I'm really touched that you brought me on to review the violent anti-Semitic film, the power fantasy of overthrowing the elders of Zion. That is,
Jesus Christ. I had not interpreted it that way, so we might have some.
I think it would be an unfair criticism of the film. I just think it really throws itself in your face there a little bit. You have to wrestle with that interpretation, I think.
Yeah. Especially in this day and age, people will interpret it that way, whether it was intentional or not.
And then they'll ask John Carpenter about it, and he will yell at them.
So this week it's They Live, probably the most famous Roddy Piper film.
Mm-hmm. What's the competition?
His last movie was like some Christian movie. I know that. I just recently read that on his Wikipedia page.
Let me see. If I click through Roddy Piper on the on IMDb, it'll show most notable roles. So,
all right.
Let's see. They Live is number 1. Oh, Hell Comes to Frogtown, number 2.
Oh, yeah.
Which I mentioned on the commentary track.
Okay.
Something called Portal to Hell in 2015. Promising.
Right. Is that the Christian movie?
The one I was thinking of is The Masked Saint. I saw that on his Wikipedia. So I don't know anything about it.
It's a deep trench of film
classic.
greats.
Yes.
I did. Well, I don't want to get too far ahead. I think They Live is known for its one-liners, and my number one takeaway from watching this movie is how much all of the one-liners are out of place.
Yeah, they're all insane.
All the dialogue is, it seems like.
It's totally unrelated to what's happening.
Yeah. We'll get into that deeply here in a moment. Before we start the movie recap, we like to bore our listeners with our thoughts on the current state of world news. And it's been another fantastic week in the new coming golden age of America.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, but before we get into the dystopia stuff, can we go back basically 3 minutes? I'd just like to state for the record that Me llamo La Araña Discoteca. So.
Is that a
get that in there?
Is that a Community reference?
Yes, I am the disco spider.
Worth it. It's worth going back for.
I thought so.
So yeah, where do we start? I've kind of given up trying to remember everything that happened because it's coming at us so hard and fast, which I think is kind of by design and maybe worth talking about in itself.
Yeah, they put the fire hose on us.
It's really a beautiful example of flooding the zone with shit.
Yeah. I think the notable thing, or at least who knows what happened last night. I haven't looked at the news this morning.
Me neither.
I think yesterday's big one was the tariffs, but
yeah. So there was he tried to suspend funding on basically not paying all the government's debts to shit that they had already been appropriated by Congress, and then was told he couldn't do that, and then immediately
went ahead.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, the problem with analyzing any of this stuff, right, is that there's a bunch of shit he can't do, and yet it does anyway. So when any kind of conversation about, well, at least he can't do X, or he's wrong about Y, ultimately, no, he was right. He can do that. Yeah.
Ultimately, it turns out that really, if nobody in power says he can't do that, then he can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I think it was Mike, the guy from the Revolutions podcast. He had this really great analogy that was just the Democrats are like the Washington Generals just walking off the court, having been completely had their asses beat by the Harlem Globetrotters, right?
Yeah.
And then they're just clapping each other on the back, being like, "Well, good game, guys. We played solid." If they hadn't had that stepladder,
we had the fundamentals down. It's not our fault. We got fooled by trick dribbling and them bringing a toddler on.
Yeah, there's they were on Scooby Doo. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
To our many Gen Z listeners who didn't catch that reference from the 70s, don't worry about it.
Hey, that's my line.
I think it's really frustrating having listened for 4 years of the Democrats not being able to do anything because one person is going to vote against it in the Senate, or one person is going to say, no, we can't do that this year. And then to watch what just got done in 2 weeks, it makes me so angry with our opposition party that I can barely control it.
Yeah. I'm kind of incandescent with rage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, like I always say, with Democrats like these, who needs Republicans?
Yeah. But I'm bum.
Anyway,
I don't know. I for one am excited for one of Elon's lackeys to currently be in possession of my social security number. I mean, God knows I haven't been able to do anything with this fucking identity in 40 years. Maybe somebody else will have a better shot.
That might be the other thing that happened yesterday with Elon's. I don't know. Everyone's calling it a coup. I don't know if that's the right wording, but he's taken over the financial apparatus of the state.
High schoolers.
Like. I don't know, man.
This is me. sorry to target the libs.
No, feel free to target the libs.
But I read that article and it was like, yeah, Elon Musk took over his lackey took over the thing, and which would allow them to remote into laptops. And I was like, what the fuck?
Stan, that's how I've been every day for the last week. What the fuck?
Yeah. It's just they build a fucking people killing machine and then they get mad when somebody comes along and turns it on. It's just insane. It's insane.
Yeah. Like the only thing that has been saving us from disaster forever is just decorum and tradition. And it just takes one guy to be like, fuck your tradition.
Yeah. I remember being young and reading about like pre-Civil War Congress and like it being kind of funny that like a dude would show up with a sword and threaten somebody.
Yeah, or somebody would
killed and
beat somebody half to death with a cane.
Yeah, but apparently you fucking need that. Like apparently we need
bring it back.
We need some people in Congress.
Let's get AOC a sword.
Jesus, please.
Bernie Sanders with like a two-hander, like a cloud strife blade.
No, you can ask him what the bonus is on it. It gives me 3% of the top 1%.
Now, let me be clear. I'm gonna limit break your ass.
Yeah, the other big news in terms of our elected representatives is that John Fetterman has been expelled from the Benevolent Brotherhood of Oafs. So,
oafs everywhere. Yeah, I don't know. I like to try to give everybody a positive thing. It gets harder every week to
when this episode comes out, our complaints this week will appear
be so
quaint
outdated
and silly, so it'll be fine.
Yeah,
it's true. It's very true. The bell curve of shit getting worse is hard to keep up with.
Yep.
But you know what? Hang in there, everybody. I'm sure eventually something is going to happen.
Oh,
the highlight, the thing I always say to people is that revolution doesn't come from revolution; it comes from oppression. So
yeah,
however bad they make it, it only further radicalizes and activates the resistance. So
that's true. I'm looking forward to $200 a sheet MDF with a lumber situation from Canada and nothing being built and nothing being moved because of gas, and it's gonna be a fun 2025.
I hope that house you just bought has a decent roof, because shingles are gonna go the fuck up.
Yeah, it's actually getting one this week.
Oh, sweet.
You could try using eggs. I hear they're going to be really cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw a funny joke, probably Blue Sky, someone reminiscing of the good old days when we used to buy eggs and toilet paper and throw them at the houses of people we hated. Can't afford that anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, let's move on to happier things. What have we been watching that is worth passing on to our dear, dear listeners in these bleak ass times? Josh,
I do have a couple of things. Number one on my list, I watch it sometime midweek, The People's Joker, which I don't know if either of you have heard of that or seen it. It is a movie that a woman named Vera Drew made in 2022, and she was going to show it at a film festival, I think in 2023, and then got the shit suit out of her by DC, because it is about, it's a very low budget film about a trans person wanting to change gender in the world of Batman, and it uses like piles of copyrighted DC shit. And it's obviously like, she's clearly very talented. She's worked in TV production, like she worked on the Comedy Bang Bang TV show, and kind of within the LA comedy sphere quite a bit. Really talented production wise, cost no money effectively. It's also very cyberpunk. Like,
really,
there are fucking even beyond the general like trans is cyberpunk thing, there are fucking drones and hacking and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
It is available out there, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's on IMDb.
Yeah, and I recommend everybody watch it. The People's Joker.
Nice.
Good recommendation. Good underground shit.
Yeah.
I feel like DC's relationship to copyright is interesting, because Superman, I feel like you can't own Superman,
right,
and not surrender a certain amount of like leeway.
Yeah,
because it's just like to speak in the common language of our lives in America, you have to be able to mention Superman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
like
it's like, congratulations, you got a big winner. Here's the thing: you got to be able. People are able to talk about Superman and shit.
Yeah, they've honestly failed the classic copyright law Kleenex test.
Right.
Like, at a certain point, if something is successful enough, it just becomes common language, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. When does the copyright lapse on Superman? I wonder.
That's actually an active legal question.
Yeah.
because just this past week, like actually maybe Friday, a lawsuit was brought against Warner by the heirs of one of the creators of Superman, saying that because I think the first Superman comic was 31 or 33, maybe
something around there. Yeah,
and
because I know it was it was two Jewish brothers. I think
Schuster and Siegel. Is that right?
38 actually. Action Comics #1 was June 38.
Okay. And they basically, the lawsuit said, hey, you haven't been paying us properly, which is kind of a side thing to the copyright, because
that's weird to hear about from a comic IP.
Yeah, it's very odd. I thought all those companies treated people very well, and everybody in the comics industry treated everybody well. It's really weird. So yeah, active legal question as to
right.
It'll probably be like that original 30s version of Superman will be public use, and then everything going forward.
That's what they're doing with Mickey Mouse, right? Like the Steamboat Willie version is somehow a different thing,
which I'm already seeing everywhere, and it's fun. So that and Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. That's how all those big money IPs go. Where year number one, Superman. The concept of big guy who's the American hero wearing a blue suit and a red cape will be public domain, but it'll be 3 years before he gets heat vision or the ability to fly as opposed to jump really far.
Yeah, and you're not allowed to use him to speak about the plight of illegal immigrants for at least 50 years.
Yeah, it's the same way with all the Sherlock Holmes stuff, where every year a new bit of Sherlock Holmes comes into public domain.
Yeah,
it's so frustrating.
I've been watching Severance, which if you're anyone in your audience hasn't been, it's right up your alley.
Yeah, we're going to cover it one day. In fact, we should probably cover it soon because it's currently in the zeitgeist. Maybe right when the season ends or something.
People are typing Severance into Spotify looking for podcasts about it. So
I know, and we're missing out on them clicks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of waiting. My wife's on vacation. Well, not on vacation. She's visiting family overseas, and I'm going to wait and watch it with her when she gets back. But I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, the new season, I mean, we're 3 episodes in and is very solid so far. They aren't doing the irritating slow roll of, we had a big finale and now you'll sit there with your dicks in your hands waiting for something to pay off while we just reset. Yeah.
So they just keep barreling forward, huh?
They jack your jaw with the twist right out of the gate, pretty much. Nice. It's great.
Yeah.
They do a great job.
Cool. You want to know what I'm watching?
What's that?
I've been wanting to watch something that I don't have to, that doesn't make me feel bad. So I've been binging through old episodes of New Girl, the old sitcom. And it is so 2012 and 2013 that it is extremely comforting in a weird way.
Have you gotten to the crossover episode with Brooklyn Nine-Nine yet?
No, not yet. I'm only on the middle of season 2, but there were 25 episodes a season of that show. So it takes a while, but it's been nice, and that's all I really have to say about it. It's a funny show too.
Is it? Okay. I've literally never seen more than 5 seconds of it.
Yeah, I only know it from the crossover episode. So I liked the crossover episode. So that's cool.
It's funny in a twee hipstery 2012 kind of way. I mean, I'd recommend it. Obviously, I'm watching it, but it's not like groundbreaking or anything.
Yeah,
it's got some Dawson's Creek vibes. Yeah, it's got Zoe. I think the cast really liked each other and liked goofing around. You can kind of feel that. Everybody just seems to be having fun.
I really like. So I liked this show on. What was it on? I think it was on Stars. It was their ahistorical kind of comedy about the founding of a magazine similar to Playgirl.
Oh, yes, Minx on
Minx. There you go.
I think that was an HBO.
Yeah. So Justin's in that, and he's in New Girl, and so because I was watching a bunch of that shit, I was getting a ton of interviews with him on a podcast, or maybe it's his own podcast. I don't know. Yeah. And he always had really warm things to say about the New Girl cast. So
he's big in the podcasting space too. He's got a lot of them.
Yeah, Jake Johnson. That's his name.
There we go, Jake Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy. I like him.
Yeah, I always, since I never watched either of them, I always mix up the New Girl with the Mindy Project. They operate, they like exist in the exact same space in my brain. Like I know. Okay,
for me, it's a titles thing. I think of Two Broke Girls.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I know Zooey Deschanel is on the New Girl, and I know Mindy Kaling is the Mindy Project, but the rest of the shows are just this amorphous blob. Like I don't know who is the supporting cast on which one, but and Damon Wayans Jr. is on New Girl. That's great.
Well, sort of. He's on the pilot, and then I think he comes back at some point.
Yeah.
But he, I think he got Happy Endings or some other show right as New Girl was picked up, so they had to.
Happy Endings was getting canceled. He got hired to do the pilot for the New Girl. And then they decided, well, I guess we can throw them $5 to make another season at Happy Endings. So he went back for that. And then they brought him on after the fact.
Yeah, he kind of comes in and out, and he's referenced a lot. It's weird. Anyway, it's a lighthearted show to make you forget about your troubles. So, got anything else?
I have one thing, which is not going to be fun for anybody to watch. A movie new within the past couple of months. It's been in theaters. It's called The Order. There is no reason that either of you would recognize the title because I wouldn't remember the title if I wasn't staring at it on my list of stuff I watched. It is about those white supremacists in like 1986 or 7 who killed a Jewish radio DJ in Denver. They were, they had a big compound up in Idaho, and it's the FBI pursuit of them. And it's basically like, hey, we should have nipped this shit in the bud back then. The signs were all the signs were all there. We just didn't see them. But it's pretty good. Nicholas Hoult, one of my favorite working actors.
Oh yeah, he's great.
Plays the lead white supremacist. And then Jude Law plays the FBI agent trying to hunt them down.
2 British men, huh?
Yeah, and it actually works. Like
cultural appropriation.
Yeah, it is. It really is. But pretty good movie. I think it might be up for an Oscar or 2. But yeah,
sounds like a bummer.
Kind of a bummer. It does. I will say, like the movie we're going to discuss in just a moment, boy, the cars are great. Like there's a couple of scenes where there's like an AMC Eagle in somebody's driveway, and I'm like, man, that's my shit right there.
All those classic cars were just everywhere back in the day. Okay. Anything else that we have to recommend before we move on?
Nah, I think I'm good.
I'm good.
All right, I am good as well. So let's talk about the recommendo of the week, which is John Carpenter's They Live.
They do live while we sleep.
They be living. All right. Fun film. If you're a member of our Patreon, you might have noticed that we released our watch along of it, which was basically our reactions to it, having not seen it in decades.
Yeah.
Josh sounded pleasantly surprised.
I was. I couldn't have been more pleasantly surprised watching this movie, because I remembered like thinking, oh, that's okay. But the movie, it's like, I don't know. I think I had the idea that, the ideas in the movie were good, but it was dragged down by being just kind of crappy. And now I realize that that was simply a reaction to Roddy Piper's acting, as opposed to literally anything else in the movie, which is all great. It's just that Roddy Piper sucks. And I mean that, like, I don't know, his version of sucking in this movie kind of works for me in 2025, but...
Yeah, he sucks in a way that's endearing, not in a way that's annoying or pulls you out. I don't know. I don't even know if I agree that he actually sucks, but...
It's kind of a... it does weigh down the movie that he's your POV character, basically.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know what the fuck he's looking at.
He is so lost and confused the entire film.
That is literally in my notes about it. The scene where they're, I don't know, 30 minutes in, where they're bulldozing the homeless camp.
Yeah.
I literally made some notes because there are these intercuts between, okay, they're bulldozing the camp, then there's Roddy Piper, then there's Keith David.
Yeah.
And the contrast between the camera is on Roddy Piper and he is clearly a guy who they have just stuck in a scene and is like, okay, there's bulldozers over there. Look concerned about it.
Yeah.
And that is the best he can manage. Well, then it cuts to Keith David and you can totally see this is like a human person experiencing a thing. The contrast is incredible.
I thought Keith David was exceptional with what he was given.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, that little section there is a perfect illustration of what is the difference between a good actor and a guy who happens to be the lead in a movie.
Right.
It is funny though. Whenever he gets whenever his character has to make a rant, he just goes into pro wrestler mode, and he's pretty much quiet the whole movie until he has to freak out about something, and then it's Roddy Piper that some of us grew up with on TV. You have any other pre-show or pre-recap?
Yeah, I'll say this movie is this shouldn't be odd to anybody who knows Memphis culture, but this movie is huge in Memphis activist culture.
Okay.
Because it's, well, for one thing, we're a fucking wrestling town, right?
Yeah.
So any time especially the old school wrestlers show up in movies, they're pretty big here. But then just kind of the obvious on the nose social commentary. This film gets referenced a lot in meetings here. Just say that.
Okay,
that's awesome.
So I have a soft spot for it for that reason.
It feels very poignant today. It is not a subtle movie, for one thing. They're telling you what the movie is the whole time you're watching it.
Yeah. But there is no successful Memphis activist for whom there's not a photograph of them pulling their sunglasses down in representation.
I love it.
Yeah, I was thinking about this movie more since I watched it the second time yesterday. I was literally thinking in my head, so for all of its flaws, should this movie maybe be legally required to be shown around the clock in every movie megaplex on one theater and broadcast over the air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Just a
They Live channel on TV, guys. I'm into that.
Yeah, because I think that would hugely help America.
I have a counter offer. What if it's just ABC but broadcast through the sunglasses from They Live?
I'm into it.
So you just see all the commercials and all the TV shows with the
I think I had a thought and it disappeared. Never mind.
All right, great.
I was distracted. I started looking at the posters on the IMDb of the They Live in different languages. Vivos. And
I was looking at those yesterday. There are some badass posters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember what I was going to say. A movie, and I feel like being hosts of a cyberpunk podcast and hearing the things we've heard in the cyberpunk world on the internet, a movie these days pretty much has to be this unsubtle for people to get it.
Yeah.
Which is sad, but true.
Yeah. I mean, it is it wears it on its sleeve, and it's in a way that's I think there's merit to it being simple, right? So there's, all right. Yeah. So it is a work of anti-capitalist propaganda. And you can get into the nitty gritty and be like, well, it's, produced by capital and that's fine. And, we can discuss that. But it does part of what I think, any good propaganda film will do, which is that it, makes its case basically.
Yeah.
But there's two pillars in, any kind of political propaganda that you have to and I'm sorry, I'm a communist for background. For if anybody needs to understand the context of what I'm saying here, I don't think propaganda is a bad word. Yeah. The two things you have to do, right, are you have to radicalize people against capital, and you have to inoculate them against fascism. And I think this film does an excellent job of radicalizing against capital, and I think it does a terrible job of inoculating against fascism. I'm not convinced that the world at the end of the movie doesn't like collapse into Trumpian horrors.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that's very true. It's not good at the end of this movie.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of joke I was making earlier about it being anti-Semitic. Like that's this form of activation of like, look, those people look weird, you should kill them. Is it not good. Historically doesn't lead to great things.
Suboptimal.
Yeah. In the fiction of the film, that's the correct response. You do need to go kill those weird aliens, but I'm not sure it has a message you can carry out into the world and then act on.
I think it's really this as a propaganda gesture is a really interesting case study in exactly what you just said, and I think it's partially flawed like that because John Carpenter, great guy, heart's in the right place. The motherfucker clearly hates goddamn capitalism.
Yeah.
He wants to hang out, smoke dope, and play video games all day, and every once in a while get a couple of bucks to make a movie.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I read an interview with him where he said something along the lines of like he hadn't watched TV for a few years, and then he watched TV and then wanted to make They Live.
Yeah, and I think like I said, his heart is in exactly the right place, but I don't think he's hugely educated on the theory and kind of, he knows like, okay, this is bad. This needs to be fought, but he isn't able in this film, at least, to make the leap to, okay, what's the next move?
Yeah. I wouldn't even necessarily assume he's not able to. Like, I think he's definitely smart enough. I just don't think he has that critique.
Yeah.
I also don't think he would endorse communism as an answer to the problems
I think having read a bunch of John Carpenter interviews and stuff, I think he's some flavor of socialist, but I think it's simply a matter of his heart is in the right place, but he has literally from his birth been a middle class and then ascended to, low upper class white guy in America. So he's been super comfortable and
Yeah, but it's interesting because he's always been, with a few exceptions, his movies have generally been considered failures as like box office, as far as box office is concerned. But he's almost immediately vindicated by history because they all become cult classics, right?
Yeah.
So he endures. He's constantly in this position of enduring criticism, just like really hateful stuff in the media about his most recent work, being like denied future work by the studios in the moment. It's an interesting place to live. I don't know. I don't know that anyone but him and a few other filmmakers really know. Like, there's no way a psychologist has done a study of what that does to the brain. Like, that's got to be fucked up.
And then the studios punish him by making him make a movie with Chevy Chase.
Right.
Real quick, going back to what you were saying about propaganda, I think it's also hurt by our main character whose solution to literally every problem is let's kill that weird looking thing.
I know.
Which like it makes for a fun movie and a fun main character, but we were remarking when we were watching it live, like when he finally gets back to Keith David and Keith David's like, well, we should do something. And you can see Roddy Piper's like, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I was just running around killing everything.
Yeah.
It's probably not the solution long term.
I think he killed that first woman because she was ugly.
Yeah.
I don't think he had put together that she was responsible for a global.
Let's be real. Every revolutionary movement needs people who are willing to just go out and kill everybody.
I mean, God bless them. You gotta have them, but
it's propaganda of the deed, man.
But it does kind of hurt a narrative with him as your POV character. I think you're right.
Yeah. It's not the Motorcycle Diaries, I'll say that.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, this movie came out in 1988. You know what week it came out? 1988? Election Day week.
Oh.
Wow.
Let's see, 88 would have been
George
re-election of... Oh, no, it would have been George Bush, yeah.
Yeah. The recent president who has looked most like one of the ghouls from this film.
Accurate.
I just thought that was very funny. Like, I looked at the date and I was like, wow, they picked that very much on purpose, didn't they?
Yeah. That's not that has the cadence of a joke, but that's actually a really astute observation. That they do look like George H. W. Bush.
Yeah, it's okay. So this movie starts. We got a drifter coming into town. A train rolls past him as he's walking under a bridge. Apparently, just FYI, having the train roll past him cost $12,000.
Oh my God.
And they fucked it up the first time, so they had to do it twice, and it cost $24,000.
Nice.
Jesus.
Like, great way to start a movie, bro.
Yeah. Oh, but an aside, for any like aspiring filmmakers who are interested in making movies, do not do like pirate video of train.
No.
Like, don't try to film this shot without clearance from the train people, because the train police do not play around, and you will end up in jail.
That is 1,000% correct. It's long been expunged, but I got in real trouble for trespassing on railroad property 30 years ago now.
I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys are very legalistic and litigious.
Yeah.
They don't screw around at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, train rolls by and you see Rowdy Roddy Piper, a Canadian. Yes, Mike, we have heard he is a Canadian.
A Saskatoon.
Ooh. We know somebody from Saskatoon.
Josh and I have a specific connection to Saskatoon because of a weird shared work experience we had once back in the day. We cleaned out a hoarder house for the lady who was from Saskatoon.
And boy, she was a hoarder.
Yeah.
And boy, we knew she was from Saskatoon because she had 60-year-old letters.
Yes.
So, Roddy Piper's walking into town. He is looking peak of 1988 cool. Faded jeans, leather bomber jacket, backpack with a sleeping bag on it. It's a rainy day in LA.
As is very common, so I've heard.
Yeah. So he walks past these train tracks, and then we see a bunch of cuts of him going downtown, and there are, homeless people out on the street, people on the streets.
Yes.
Yep.
He heads to an employment office. We hear over the PA that due to computer error, this food stamp program has been suspended. Please do not apply.
Yep.
Oh, as opposed to our current dystopia where due to the president saying fuck you, the food stamp program has been suspended. So fuck you.
Yeah. And he has a little interview with a clerk and says, I'm from, just got into town from Denver.
Yeah, and she's had it with his shit from the jump. Like she does not care. She does not put on any kind of like.
That lady is seriously giving. Fuck, I can't remember her name. The clerk from Beetlejuice vibes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. She wants there to be an act of violence in that place as a result of someone losing their last option.
Yeah. Yeah, so they don't have any jobs for him. And one thing he mentions is like, after we lost 14 banks in Denver, all the work dried up.
Yeah.
So this movie, and later we were talking about this when we were watching it and recording it. I think this movie is set in the mid-90s.
Yeah, they mentioned the 90s at some point.
Yeah, there's a commercial on TV about the roaring 90s.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so, this is near future. I don't know, financial crisis. I mean, that seems sci-fi to me. We'd never have one of those.
What? We're definitely not standing on the precipice looking down into the abyss of one right now, right?
Yeah.
Certainly not.
Plus, they're getting HW in.
Yeah.
Everything's looking up.
Yeah.
They've had 8 years of Reagan, and then they're going to get the HW to just put the cherry on top.
Fucking sunshine in America.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to go vomit on some Japanese people.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fun.
He did that, right?
Yeah. Yep. That was him.
Okay.
Yeah. That was.
Well, the way you said it made it sound like it was some kind of sex pervert thing. But it was for listeners not our age. It was at an official state event. He threw up in the lap of the Japanese. Was it the prime minister? Or
I think it was.
I think, yeah,
a high-ranking Japanese official.
It was a very funny moment.
Yeah,
it
you were
really
like
was.
A teen boy in that time.
Yeah.
So they got no jobs for him. So he leaves and wanders outside, and he sees a street preacher in the park.
This is classic post-apocalyptic world building, setting making.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's perfect. The street preacher says a bunch of shit that sounds like normal, quote marks, normal apocalyptic street preacher bullshit.
Yeah.
And it turns out that over the course of the movie, it's all exactly true. He knows what he's talking about.
They're telling you the plot of the movie via the street preacher.
Yeah, we're 4 minutes in, and this blind street preacher who's been in, I don't know, 150 TV roles over his career, is yelling the setting at you.
It is a kind of Chekhov's gun. Like, you are kind of forced if you're going to put a blind street preacher in your movie. He can't just be saying shit that's disconnected. He's got to be.
By the third act, somebody's going to use that blind street preacher to beat somebody to death. That's Chekhov's blind street preacher.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So he wanders he wanders around, spends the night in an alley watching TV through somebody's window. We established that Cable 54 is a big thing. And he hangs out around a trash can fire, which is ideal.
Yeah.
I mean,
kind of harkens me back to Max Headroom a little bit with the importance of the cable channel, which, I know at the time was.
I think you're.
I got a kind of RoboCop thing from it. Yeah.
Yeah, that as well.
The prevalence of the.
Everybody thought cable was going to rot our brains. That eventually turned into the internet and then our phones or whatever, but social media.
TikTok and
But there's always something out there that's going to be the end of us.
Yeah. There's always.
And they're probably all contributed. Let's be fair.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the thing is, TikTok might go away, but there's always a new moral panic about what our children are consuming right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were doing that with novels in the 1600s.
Yeah.
That's the only one that was truly accurate, though.
So he gets up. We're at the next day, and I specifically tracked in my notes, going from night to the next day, because a weirdly large amount of time, I think, passes in this movie.
Yeah.
There are a lot of
right?
More than that.
Really?
It's at least a week before he shows Keith David the glasses, because he gets the job. The guy's like, we'll pay you on Thursday. And then Keith David, that scene, he gives the money to him, that Thursday or even after that.
Yeah. It's, it takes, I think there was a thing, either they cut out a bunch of shit, with some more intervening space in it, or John Carpenter was just like, well, look, I like to shoot at dawn.
Yeah.
So fuck it. I am going to, whenever this scene ends, we're just going to cut to him waking up the next day.
Right.
People look the coolest when they're walking down the street at dawn.
It's true.
So he goes to a construction site and does it fucking right. Yes, they got any jobs? The guy he talks to says this is a union gig. And he says, can I talk to the shop steward?
Yeah.
Which is exactly the correct.
Yeah, I was actually curious what you guys thought. Because I don't know what I don't know the politics of that situation. Because the looks he's giving, I agree that he's kind of talk to the shop steward is a great response. But there seems to be this kind of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge going on that I couldn't quite read.
I felt like it was pro, because like, why would you go through that effort? Like most movies of the time, you think about movies in the 80s, it's always about like the lone hero who doesn't need any help. He doesn't, the idea of a union is like kind of counter to what the Reagan era was selling.
Yeah. And maybe that's what I'm reading because I'm so acclimated to seeing the union brought up in a bad context. But.
Now, I think it was a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to union people. I don't know that they would have gone to that effort without it.
Yeah. I really think that's the case. And we find out over the course of like the next couple of scenes that this guy who I don't even think we've found out his name is Nada yet.
I found that out when the credits rolled, just so you know.
Yeah, I think maybe Keith David says it once, maybe in that fight.
Maybe. Yeah. While he's getting punched in the balls for the 12th time.
Yeah. It's based on a short story where I think the character's name is more clear.
Yeah. Over the next couple of scenes, well, we'll get to that. So yeah, he does the right thing. He says, okay, let me talk to the shop steward. Mm-hmm. The shop steward off screen says basically like, yeah, we got some day labor shit. We'll hook you up. You did you did a good job not trying to scab or come in under the wire.
Mm-hmm.
So great. And then we see the best person in this movie by a huge amount. Sexy fucking Keith David in a lavender tank top swinging a pick.
Yeah. And I've never worked construction. I feel like they're a little late in the construction process for people to be out there with a shovel and a pickaxe, but I'm not sure what they're doing. But
and then he's walking home with a framing hammer on his hip.
Yeah.
What the fuck job are you doing, man?
But there's like brick construction and there's like rebar sticking out everywhere, and they're like, I don't know. Maybe I'm the idiot. But it just seemed weird.
I'm going to be real here. I think John Carpenter doesn't know what construction looks like. He's only ever seen those Looney Tunes where characters are chasing each other around.
I'm going to push back and I'm going to say John Carpenter knows, but he doesn't respect the viewer enough.
You could be correct.
To properly showcase what a real construction outfit looks like.
So, yeah, it's perfect. And Keith David is fucking beautiful. And then it's the end of the day. He really is. The end of the day, Keith David sees Roddy Piper sitting there, and the foreman says, you can't fucking sleep on the site. You got to go somewhere else, which indicates this is like a real thing. There's a lot of wandering workers around.
Also comes in hot with that comment. It felt like didn't really establish a combative tone between these two characters before he came in with that.
Yeah,
he did seem to be looking down on him quite a bit throughout the whole scene.
Yeah. So Keith David says, "Hey, I got a place where you can stay. They got hot food and showers." And Piper, being a dick, is like silent. And doesn't respond at all, and then starts following him.
They probably had to cut his response, whatever it was. It probably sucked.
And then like blocks later, he's following Keith David, and Keith David stops and is like, "What the fuck is this? Why are you following me?" He says, I don't like to follow anybody if I don't know where they're going." Like, this doesn't make any sense, Piper. What the shit? But and also at this point, Keith David has a sleeveless jean jacket over his tank top. Fucking perfection.
It's very 80s and wonderful.
Yeah. So they go to a wonderful fucking anarchist collective.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, it's, fucking mutual aid falling out of their asses.
Yeah, this is not a homeless shelter or a homeless camp. This is a food not bombs, soup kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, it's dirty and outside. I mean, it's not dirty, but it's like, on the ground.
Yeah.
And
it's in a vacant lot.
But it looks nice. Everybody's taken care of. Everybody's happy. They're like
there's kids getting read to. There's like a cultural element going on. It's great. The vibe is different than an actual homeless camp, but it's in keeping with kind of extra legal homeless support initiatives that I've seen.
And it's the statement is clearly being made. These people are happy. We have not seen anyone else so far in the movie that isn't like kind of in distress, but there's like peace here.
Yeah, and people are fucking smiling and welcoming. It's like Carpenter was really making a point with this, whether or not he was conscious of it.
Yeah, it feels very Steinbeckian. The people driven beneath the notice of the exploitative. Like,
I was going to say it feels very Demolition Man-ian, personally.
Oh yeah.
It is lacking a Dennis Leary character.
We got to watch that movie at some point.
Yeah, we do.
Then we meet Peter Jason, who is a wonderful character actor who's been in 9,000 things.
Is this the guy who's watching the TV?
No, Peter Jason is the guy.
He's the guy who he comes up to him. And he's like, "You have tools in your bag."
Yeah, and is pulling chairs out of a truck, and then
right.
Looks like Meatloaf.
Yes, a bit like Meatloaf.
And he was in the Meatloaf biopic, as we determined.
Yes. He was also in Deadwood and 9 million other things.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
And he's kind of the...
Was he in The Stand? The miniseries, like the 90s miniseries?
He might have been.
I'm scrolling.
I know him from somewhere, but I'm
through his credits, but there's so many.
I know Miguel Ferrer was in that. Let's see. Oh, his most notable credits. Oh, he was in Escape from L.A. as a cop.
We watched that.
48 Hours as a, quote, cowboy bartender.
He was in Seabiscuit.
Ooh.
This doesn't matter. We do this every goddamn episode.
Yeah, we do. Hail Caesar. He was in that.
People love that. That's what the people come for, is the IMDb dives.
Yeah, the IMDb deep dives.
Yeah.
He was in Congo.
See that?
For God's sake. Yeah.
He's worked a lot. He was on Roseanne.
Yeah, he's great. Hunt for Red October? Shit. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to move past this. He's kind of the, I don't know, a de facto organizer or something like that.
I'm sorry, this is actually a good point to inject that another thing I really like about Carpenter is his like deep bench of character actors. Was it Harry Dean Stanton and like just tons of dudes in his Rolodex that are just Hollywood staples. As far as people whose face you know but names you don't. Like it's Carpenter always has like 5 or 6 of them in every movie.
Yeah, because I think just looking at his IMDb, Peter Jason was in like 4 Carpenter movies, including this, Prince of Darkness, Escape from L.A., fucking The Mouth of Madness.
Well, I think Josh pointed out during our watch along that, or maybe he texted it, whatever, that Kurt Russell was considered for the lead in this, but he didn't want to become known as the Kurt Russell guy, and so he cast somebody different.
I've actually got the list or a list of people they considered. I'm going to read it. It's some deranged shit, like some stuff that would be amazing choices.
All right, save that for the end.
No, I'm going to do it now because I don't want to forget.
Sweet.
All right.
Okay. For the lead, for the Rowdy Roddy Piper role, Alec Baldwin,
Yikes.
Michael Biehn, Brian Bosworth, who might have been a worse actor than Roddy Piper.
Probably.
He's maybe the only one on the list. Jeff Bridges.
Okay.
Bruce Campbell.
We brought that up when we were watching it.
Yeah.
So wait, hang on. Jeff Bridges, because Carpenter did Starman.
Yeah.
Was that before or after?
No, Starman was 84, 85?
Quite a bit before.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I would love to see most of these versions of
Yeah.
Continue. Yeah. Jeff Bridges, Bruce Campbell. This one is truly a shock and wild to me. Tom Cruise. Think of fresh off of this was This was right in Color of Money.
Yeah.
Like Tom Cruise is a fucking baby.
Yeah, people would be seeing that who had just seen like Risky Business. Like that.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Harrison Ford would have loved to have seen that.
I bet if Tom Cruise had done this movie, it would be his 12 Monkeys, like Brad Pitt with Legends of the Fall and 12 Monkeys. Like this.
Yeah, I would. And then he would have.
He might have had a cool career.
He maybe would have acted more than twice in the next 30 years. As opposed to performed.
Yeah.
I've actually watched, I don't know if it was like a biopic or just a documentary about Cruise's career, how it was a conscious decision he made to stop being an artist at some point and start being a movie star. And it's a shame because I've always loved Tom Cruise and I've loved his early careers.
Yeah. And I think when he does stuff like Tropic Thunder, the way he did it, like it speaks to a depth that I think is not evident in his work.
I agree with that about Tom Cruise. He made a conscious decision. Similarly, The Rock.
Yeah. I think The Rock might have made that conscious decision very early in his career, though.
I think he had the living shit scared out of him by how Southland Tales crashed.
Oh, really?
Because, he has never acted again.
We've been on way off the movie for a long time at this point. The point we're getting back to is that list of actors considered for the role is insane.
It continues. Okay. Harrison Ford.
You said that one.
Okay.
Wow. I didn't catch it when you said it. Harrison Ford. Mel Gibson. Okay.
Mel Gibson.
I'm having trouble placing because I'm having to put the in 1984.
Yeah. Think of Lethal Weapon demolited Mel Gibson.
Yeah, this would have been Lethal Weapon 2, I think, about then.
I don't think they could have afforded Harrison Ford.
No, they couldn't afford any of these fuckers.
Yeah. Here's one they could have afforded. Tommy Lee Jones.
Huh.
This is before
I actually
Under
think that's
Siege.
That's not bad.
Yeah. Michael Keaton, the year before Batman.
I would have at the time thought that was terrible. I would have been wrong. He would have nailed it. He would have killed it.
Yeah, he would have killed it. Here's another one that I would probably not like the movie very much. Christopher Lambert.
I would have loved it.
He came up last time we were.
Yeah.
He is eternal. Literally.
And he's another Southland Tales vet.
Yeah.
Stephen Lang, who, if you're unfamiliar, was the villain in the Avatar films. And he was also in Tombstone. Okay, here's another fucking great one. Dolph Lundgren.
Mm-hmm.
Would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah.
Michael Madsen.
Okay.
Pass.
Bill Paxton.
Mm-hmm.
I'm back in.
I would pay giant piles of money to see that.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Perlman, Monkey Man himself.
Man, Ron Perlman.
I love Ron Perlman. He was very young at that point, though, I feel like.
He was pretty young. That was a couple of years past Name of the Rose.
He still looked like a sack of bricks, though, right?
Yeah, he did.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Good luck getting that. But this was the year of Predator? Year after Predator?
Yeah.
Stallone, obviously. Patrick Swayze.
Hey, give me the bubblegum and kick ass.
So just to be clear, this is a list of some fucking clueless like studio owners, like wet dreams of who.
Yeah, this is a list that somebody sent to John Carpenter, and nobody was acting.
And Carpenter was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Yeah.
No, he's that wrestler dude. Fuck you.
Yeah.
The guy in the skirt.
Yeah.
Get him.
Okay,
we're gonna have to pay $24,000 for a train. I don't know if you know that.
I'm gonna fuck up the first shot. So we're gonna have to pay for it double. Okay, there are two more. Jean-Claude Van Damme. Who, nothing says all-American drifter like Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, I think the only worst, but if the last name on the list is Steven Seagal, that's going to kill me because otherwise, Van Damme is the worst yet.
The last one I actually really like, Bruce Willis. The year after Die Hard.
Year after Die Hard, yeah.
So here's the thing: all of those I would love to see. But if it had been made with any of those people, and you said, you know who was originally in talks for this, that fucking wrestler, Rowdy Piper, I'd be like, what the fuck? We missed out on the greatest movie of all time. So
that's true. That is a deeply true observation. That's why you're on this podcast.
Thank you, and the fact that I edited
it. Well, you can just cut me saying that and put it wherever you want.
All right.
So, back to the Anarchist Collective. So we have a night's talk. They're handing out food. They got showers. Peter Jason says, oh, good, you got tools. Part of our shower is collapsing. If you can fix that, that'd be fucking great. They're serving up what look like good goddamn meals. And they're sitting there eating, Roddy Piper and Keith David, and they have they have a little conversation about how Keith's from Detroit, hasn't seen his wife and kids in 6 months, and was laid off after I actually pulled this off the IMDb page because it's perfect. Like, if you are looking for propaganda in a movie, this is how you do it. And Frank is Keith David. I have a wife and kids in Detroit. Haven't seen them in 6 months. Steel mills were laying people off left and right. They finally went under. We gave the steel companies a break when they needed it. Know what they gave themselves? Raises. The golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. They close one more factory, and we should take a sledgehammer to one of their fancy fucking foreign cars.
Yeah. It's fucking badass.
Then the response from Roddy Piper is, you ought to have a little more patience. And Frank says, I'm all out. The whole deal is like some crazy game. They put you at the starting line, and the name of the game is make it through life. Only everybody's out for themselves and looking to do you in at the same time. Okay, man, here we are. You do what you can, but remember, I'm going to do my best to blow your ass away. So how are you going to make it? And then Piper says, I deliver a hard day's work for my money. I just want a chance. It'll come. I believe in America. I follow the rules. Everybody got their own hard times these days.
You dopey schmuck.
And you want to blow Roddy Piper's head off.
So I did think
that's his character arc, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, this I Believe in America thing holds up until he sees an ugly woman. So that's...
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly how this movie works.
But I thought...
You look like your face got dumped in cheese dip in 1957.
It's the worst line.
It's the dumbest shit.
So, I did think that second, so the first little patch of Keith David's dialogue there is excellent. I did feel like the second patch was maybe he was just told to talk while they followed him with the camera for a minute, and he was just kind of
oh yeah, yeah.
It didn't feel quite as
it doesn't have quite the kick.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got the message of the movie, except for the focus on ugly people.
Yeah.
So
also, when do we establish the church across the street?
Right about now. We see a church across the street. It'll come up again in just a second. So it becomes night. Roddy Piper's playing the fucking harmonica as he does. The instrument Roddy Piper is most notable for playing.
Very famous for his. Well, it's a pipe.
It's not. It's a harmonica.
It's a mouth harp.
Yes, notably no pipes involved. And we see some homeless people, including this bearded guy who's just going to pop back up again a few times, watching a sweet fucking console TV.
Yeah.
And then, oh shit, it's a Max Headroom incident.
Oh, finally, we're cyberpunk. We're justified being on the High Tech Low Life program.
Fucking a white guy who comes on the TV like J-Bone saying, you got to hack your own brain. And he's given out, again, the whole plot, the whole meta plot of the movie. Scientists discovered 8 months ago they use a signal to cloak their identity. Blah, blah, blah. Everybody watching the TV, as soon as it switches, get fucking headaches.
Yeah.
And we also see Roddy Piper observing that the street preacher is walking by on the sidewalk, and he's mouthing the words to the hacker's speech, before and as he's saying them. So he knows some shit.
Yeah. It's like he's receiving the signal straight to his brain or something.
Yeah. And Peter Jason sees him, goes over and grabs him and escorts him to the church that's right across the street, which is an African Methodist Episcopalian church.
Right.
Which I think is a little confusing, but
yeah,
I don't know. To be fair, all the Protestant denominations are very confusing to me. So
yeah, I think I could be wrong about this, but I think that's a deliberate, impossible church. I think it's supposed to be on the surface, not a real church.
Yeah, Methodist and Episcopalian kind of can't coexist in the same building.
Right. So I feel like this was one of the first, or I don't know about first, this was a misstep, I think, because the church is not a real church. It's like it's kind of the right-wing fantasy of the like radicals using this place to cover their activities.
Yeah.
Which I don't know that was really, I was a kid when this movie came out, so I can't really, I don't know what the news context for that was, but like, for me, it made me think of like Hamas and like justifying bulldozing hospitals and shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I can,
because the homeless camp is really a cover that these radicals are using. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think,
is it, or, I mean, the church is
both,
or do they just live there?
I got the feeling the church and the homeless encampment were related, but that might be again, like in the South here in Memphis, I know what church it would be. It would be First Congo. And so, and I know what vacant lot would be where the homeless camp is. Like, it's, like I can picture it perfectly happening in Memphis. So it's,
I think you're probably pretty close to right in terms of how like the church as a front.
Right.
And I hadn't really considered,
which I think might just be Carpenter kind of like uncritically accepting a right-wing narrative, like without thinking about it.
That's true.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well, it also,
I'm not mad at it.
It also goes right back to fucking, the civil rights demonstrations, and most of those being based out of churches.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it could just be down to the fact that, he had to move the story along and they needed to witness the suspicious, Roddy needed to witness the suspicious activity from where he was living.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. So the next day, or a day, Roddy Piper says to Peter Jason, like, wow, that come back pretty late from that church. And Peter Jason's like, they let us use their kitchen. And Roddy Piper's like, at 4 a.m.? We got a lot of people to cook for. Fuck off.
Yeah.
And then he breaks into the church.
You got a breakfast crowd.
Yeah. Finds out that there's no actual church stuff occurring, but in fact, there are a bunch of speakers simulating choir practice.
Yeah. The 4 a.m. choir practice was actually a recording.
Yeah. And then sneaks around some more, sees number one, some graffiti on the wall that says, "They live, we sleep."
That's the name of the movie.
Yeah. And sees the hacker or the broadcast intrusion guy recording a thing, and they're doing the Max Headroom incident, and the signal gets cut off after a few seconds, and they bitch about it. And then, most importantly, Piper stumbles and falls into a hidden panel in the back room.
Yeah.
And also the back room kind of looks like a drug lab. There's a bunch of...
What was his reaction was like score, like I found treasure, but I don't...
it's a real weird...
It was a room full of sealed cardboard boxes, right?
Yeah, sealed cardboard boxes, and then like a table with a bunch of weird chemicals and shit on them, and then some glasses.
Right. So he's like, I found the stock room. There's a bunch of Amazon shit here.
Yeah.
He was definitely very excited by it. And honestly, this may sound like a cop-out. I feel like the dumb character of Nada was just excited to find a secret passage.
Honestly,
he doesn't have a great notice check, and he rolled a 20, and he's reading.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Honestly, that might be the realist reading of this. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, look at stuff."
Yeah. I've succeeded on a search for traps.
I found a secret thing. And we also hear Peter Jason talking about they need to make some changes to the way to their methods in terms of recruiting people and exposing the truth.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
The populace. Yeah.
Yeah.
The current method is
pirate bands that you can only get 15 seconds out of. Yeah, probably not.
Yeah. I will also say that's the conversation we have at every like any activist organization you're dealing with.
I have been in dozens of exactly that speech, either on the giving or receiving end.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think the 15-second weird ranting that gives people headaches is Not ideal.
It only gives the aliens headaches though, if you pay attention.
Oh, is that? I didn't pick. So the guys in the homeless camp were aliens?
The two that got headaches were.
Well, the two that got headaches were people who, at least later, turned out to have been compromised.
I see.
Whether or not they weren't aliens at the end.
That's
of the
true.
movie.
They were. You're right. They weren't aliens, but they were working for the aliens.
Yeah, and whether or not
that's
were
kind of a shit post. If you're working with the aliens and they're like, go sit on a couch in a homeless camp, and make sure that and really just hate on the broadcast.
I don't.
I mean, their job, and I don't remember if it was now or later on, but the old guy who eventually comes back wearing the tux at the end, he's basically saying what Piper's saying. We're like, we just got to trust the system. We just got to lay low, and everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
At some point in the movie, he's saying that. I can't remember when.
Yeah.
It's at the end. I'm Cypher, I'm not going back in the Matrix for that gig. That's
yeah, exactly.
Like, well, okay, I can be in reality and eat fucking oatmeal out of a tube, or I can go back into the Matrix and sit in a homeless encampment on a TV.
Sure I can't be the CEO of an oil company? Is that...
sit on a mildewed couch in a homeless encampment.
Well, let's be fair. We had a lot of good times sitting on mildewed couches outside.
Oh yeah, it's a great time.
It certainly is, but
and I mean to have a working TV outside, that's
true.
Badass.
That's the height of luxury.
Honestly, that's one thing that really took me out of the movie, and then I realized, oh yeah, you can probably do that to some extent in like LA.
Yeah, just picking up local channels with antenna. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, not just that, but like TV and furniture could kind of survive on.
Oh yeah.
Your one rainstorm a month or two, toss a tarp over it, and
yeah. If you had a friend who had that set up in his backyard, that would be the friend whose house you hung out at.
Oh, absolutely.
Fucking sick. Yeah.
Minus the TV, that was many of my houses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
I think maybe we should just go homeless. I think that's what we all.
I mean,
it's
really have
an easy gig, right?
Wait,
houseless.
Is that not what we do at Astronomicon every late summer, early fall?
I'm bringing a giant console TV next year.
Fuck yeah.
That'd be beautiful. Okay, so Piper borrows some binoculars from this kid who kind of looks like Richard Dean Anderson, and starts watching the church all the goddamn time.
Also, bad at using binoculars.
He's not great.
He looks through the binoculars the whole time at the church.
Yeah. He tells Frank, Keith David's character, like, I think there's something going on in that fucking church over there. They got like a room with some boxes and shit. Mm-hmm. And Frank says, that's none of our goddamn business. Mm-hmm. Stay the fuck out of it. I got a job and I'm keeping it. And we see Peter Jason and some other people taking boxes out of the church and sticking them in a station wagon.
As part of their repositioning of their movement, how they're going to take it in a different direction.
Yeah, this is the point where I speculated that this movie should be playing on a TV loop 24/7. So then that night, the cops raid the church. They show up full fucking SWAT gear, bulldozers. They raid the church. They bulldoze the camp. They throw fucking road flares like grenades. Yeah.
And they do treat the church and the camp as a single entity, right? Like they're both under attack at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a brutal scene. Like this has been the one place in this whole movie that seems like where people are happy, and it's just getting fucking demolished quite aggressively. It goes on a long time.
It does. And if you're interested in a modern remake of this, check out virtually any city's subreddit for the past 5 years, and you can see YouTube video of the exact same shit.
Yeah,
I think of the one in Kansas City down there, not far from my house, that got hit a couple of years ago, and they had a nice little collective setup down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah, and this is the scene where you really see the acting difference between Rowdy Roddy Piper and Keith David.
Mm-hmm.
So Piper runs away, and we see the street preacher getting the absolute shit beat out of him by a bunch of fucking SWAT cops.
Mm-hmm.
Piper grabs the kid he borrowed the binoculars from and like goes into an abandoned house where there are a couple other people from the camp like watching the camp get fucking destroyed.
Yeah.
And then we wander around we cut to the next day. We wander through the camp wreckage. It's all bad. I mean, again, it's exactly what you can see in any city in America.
Mm-hmm. It's the kind of thing that city managers look at and think, a job well done. We've improved.
Nailed it. I would call it prophetic, but it was probably happening back then just as frequently as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you want to see a really modern remake of this, wait, I think 2-3 years and we'll see. I'm sure there will be beautiful footage of LA doing this right ahead of the Olympics.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's coming for sure.
Or, I mean, just whenever they get this, illegal immigrant removal process underway, and then suddenly realize all the homeless people are immigrants. That's going to be.
Yeah. Oh right. Oh my God.
Yeah. All the unwanted.
This is a lighthearted show.
You're really fucking with our vibe here, man. So, and the one thing that's like left intact in the wreckage of the camp is the TV.
Right.
And this is where you see a commercial which references the roaring 90s and like it's a fashion commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So Piper heads over to the church. He's like, well, maybe they didn't get all the shit out of that basement.
Yeah.
Jackpot. I know a secret. They didn't know it.
He busts into the secret panel.
With a good old-fashioned wrestling kick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Pulls out a sealed cardboard box.
This really does play like you were saying about like a D&D barbarian succeeding on a skill check. Like it becomes the central motivating element of that night's adventure. He's like, oh, but I know about that secret.
Yeah. The rest of the team is like, can we just get on? He's like, but no.
I've given you a ton of character development opportunity here. Like, nah, that secret passage, I got to go see what's in those cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
I bet it's plot relevant.
So he takes one of the boxes and then takes off into town, heads into an alley, opens up the box.
We spend a lot of time in this alley.
Yeah. We do. Get used to it. Grabs a pair of sunglasses out of the box. They kind of look like Ray-Bans, and then tosses the box in the trash.
Mm-hmm. Like hides it in the trash.
He hides it. Yeah.
He clearly has the intention of coming back for it.
Yeah. So he heads out onto the street looking cool.
Yeah.
In his new glasses with his shirt beautifully and tightly tucked into his pants, but unbuttoned to the navel.
Yeah.
The 80s were, in fashion terms, a wonderful magical time.
Yeah.
Sure. So then we get to one of the most iconic scenes in the movie. He's walking down the street. He finds out that these glasses make everything black and white and expose like every sign, including like fucking opening hours on stores. Every sign, every magazine, every bit of text in the world when viewed with these glasses actually reads as hidden messages of propaganda, like obey, consume, reproduce. I mean,
you got to remember, subliminal messages in the late 80s were a big thing. Every rock album was secretly hiding messages.
I didn't think about that, but you're right. Yeah, it was absolutely like in the air. And I thought what did you guys think of the marry and reproduce sign? Because that to me was suggestive of like some kind of like weird Malthusian politics.
I totally.
Which again, I think would be an instance of like Carter having just heard that and not critically examined it. But
I think it also could play in. It also could play into later. Maybe it's Peter Jason who says something about how all we are is livestock to them.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was all about conformity too, because that's the big.
Yeah. Well, it is the fucking late 80s. You need to get married and have...
So you think it was like a anti-gay thing? Like,
well, I think it's a...
from the alien, like I'm in universe an anti-gay, like the aliens were anti-gay or something.
Well, I think...
I hadn't thought about that, but that very well.
Yeah, it certainly could be.
Because the like, I don't know, marry and reproduce to me is like very much... I don't know. Like in the modern day, we'd think of it as like trad wives and shit.
Yeah,
right? Like,
that is super fucking loaded, and it was loaded back then. But exactly what flavor?
I just feel like
message it's conveying is
gay people in that time were so invisible in pop culture. I don't know if Carpenter was even taking it into account.
What you were just saying about fashion, like my reaction to that was just that, like, yeah, the 80s were great for fashion because the gays were in control and nobody knew it. Like, nobody was like lashing out against it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, that the marry and reproduce line stood out to me in the propaganda. I'm not sure I have anything greater to say about it than that, but it was just odd.
It really does. There are a bunch of messages in this scene because he also goes to a magazine stand.
Mm-hmm. Because your takeaway, right, if you're reading these messages as propaganda from like a bizarre ruling class that's exploiting you, your takeaway should be to revolt against it. And so you would think that the message, if there is one, would be that you shouldn't marry and reproduce. That's or that, you know, and I don't know, I guess I'm trying to comprehend the politics of the time.
I think that again goes back. I do think that goes back to the line about how we're livestock to them.
Yeah,
they want to keep a crowd of consumers to keep power over, and well, we need, you know.
Yeah, and that makes sense in universe. But I'm thinking about as John Carpenter's writing it, what is he?
Yeah, but and even then the reproduce makes sense in that context. But Mary has a whole different. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird that they threw that in there. Unless it was just like talking about conformity, because that's what everybody else is doing.
I mean, I'm trying to think of when, like,
definitely fits with today's messaging from certain political parties.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing. I guess in '84 you probably have some really early like rad film, like second wave feminist stuff that's like criticizing marriage. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know enough to. I encourage the reader to investigate it.
And we're, you know, this is 1988. We're at the end. We're getting to the end of the decade where.
Oh, right. 88. I keep saying 84. It's 88.
Where, you know, somehow divorce returned and became, you know, you know, and became like, you know, through that first half of the 80s.
Yeah. If you lived through 1988, you will know it as the year your parents got divorced. That's for sure.
I should do the math, but you are damn near spot on.
You are very close to mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the year it was finalized.
Right.
I think mine made it till 90, but it was definitely in the works in 88.
Yeah.
I'm guessing a lot of housewives had thought Reagan was over, and
yeah. Oh boy. So. Yeah, he's wandering around the streets. He's confused by all this shit. He walks by a magazine stand. He's looking through it, pulling down the glasses to see like it's a golf magazine, and then flips them, you know, pulls them back up, and it's all about, you know, consume, obey, whatever. Mm-hmm. Sees a guy buy a magazine, and all the money says, "This is your God" on it when viewed from the glasses, which...
Frankly, my favorite part of the film.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know how you top that.
Yeah. Not subtle at all, but so perfect.
No, it's like, well, sometimes you got to really hammer a fucking point home, and
also so counter to the 80s vibes at the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This section of the movie is not subtle. Mm-hmm. John Carpenter is slamming you in the face with a sledgehammer about it.
There had to be so many people because this was not like you say, this was not the predominant view.
No.
Like Adbusters didn't exist yet. There wasn't like a big, there had to be so many people who went to the movies and felt seen.
Yeah.
You got to think. Yeah.
There were people who were, I'm sure, completely fed up with what was happening in society and had nothing representing them in the popular culture. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Nowadays, we have so much of it that we're like a little bit
kind of over it.
Yeah, like you know, we watch an Amazon show that's anti-capitalist, and we're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like,
yeah, we were talking about this recently. It's almost placating us. Yeah.
You'll watch a show that calls for the destruction of the people who put it out, and it's a weird feeling.
They'll sit there smugly recommending it to everybody because they know they're completely safe.
Right.
Yeah, but in '88, this would have been. You're right.
Yeah,
rare.
This must have been absolutely fucking wild to see in a movie theater the week George H.W. Bush got elected.
Right.
I'm tempted to go back and look at what other like counterculture stuff was happening in the '80s because punk rock was a thing and like it existed. But
yeah,
probably not in cinemas.
I'm trying to think. So, I have a vague recollection of there was a Carpenter film that came out the same, or like a couple weeks after E.T. It wasn't They Live, was it?
Oh, that was The Thing.
The Thing, okay.
Yeah.
Thing. His darkest movie about an evil alien that only wants to consume versus
the happy fun alien.
Phone home.
Yeah.
Likes Reese's Pieces.
Yeah. Yeah, John Carpenter managed to many times be on exactly the wrong side for a given moment.
I'll say exactly the unpopular side, but the side that ultimately gets is worn out by history, I think.
Yeah, and then like the minute the movies leave theaters, people are like, "Well, was that the greatest movie of all time?" Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
All right, back on the train.
Yeah. So he also sees like an antenna on a light post and it's broadcasting the word sleep over and over again, and sees the president, we assume, on TV giving a speech. And this is the thing that, like, the one thing that everybody has seen from They Live is this ghoul, which is an alien with these sparkly eyes and kind of purplish skin.
When they're in black and white, like so, you don't see them in color until the end of the film when he breaks the thing. Like as long as he's only seeing them through the sunglasses, you only see the aliens in black and white, and they look to me like fly people.
Yeah, I can see that. They're like these weird skull heads with these huge eyes.
Yeah,
on them.
Ghoul is a good word to describe it. It's kind of what I think about when I think about a ghoul.
Yeah, that's how he wrote them in the script. Oh, speaking of which, I didn't mention this at the beginning. The script is credited to what the fuck? It's credited to like John Armitage or something like that.
Is that the guy who wrote the short story?
No, the guy who wrote the short story is a guy named Ray Nelson.
Right.
John Armitage is John Carpenter. He just wanted to use a pseudonym because he didn't want to seem like he's getting above himself. And like, ooh, writer, director, producer.
Right.
He's so humble.
Yeah. Yeah. John Carpenter is all-time dude.
This is before he started titling all his films John Carpenter's.
Yes.
It does take a little bit of self-involvedness to put your name on the title.
Yeah, but I do think he is kind of in that space, right, as a filmmaker, where like, there are people who follow his work, and I'm sure there are studios who want to make sure that people know that this is a John Carpenter flick.
Oh yeah,
I assume that most of those titles come from the studio going, nobody's going to see this shit.
Yeah.
How do we get those Carpenter nerds to come?
How do we tell those fucking nerds?
Because you see the same exact phenomenon with Clive Barker.
Yeah, it's true.
And I assume, I mean, if what's his name that plays Freddy Krueger had ever done anything
Robert
worth it,
Englund?
Yeah, I'm sure Robert Englund's whatever would have been a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then we see the president giving a speech on TV, and it's a perfect, beautiful speech about how it's morning in America. Like this,
some people say the best speech.
It is. It is 1,000% the coherent version of what Trump says, or the speeches Ronald Reagan was giving in 1980 and 1984. I mean, no, Ronald Reagan, but Bush Sr. was slightly more realpolitik and less philosophical about it, because I think, unlike Reagan, Bush Sr. actually had some views. I mean, they were bad.
Yeah, he was on the phone with Saudi Arabians at this point.
Yeah. I mean, he had viewpoints as opposed to a script that he thought would get him elected.
Yeah.
And we see our first...
He was to... Trump is to Ronald Reagan as George H.W. Bush is to J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
He's the ideologue being injected into the mainstream via a populist idiot.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah. Good metaphor. I like that. Yeah, perfect. And we see our first ghoul in person. It is a very fancy man in a suit who's buying, I don't remember, a Financial Times or something like that. And Roddy Piper is like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy is eyeballing him because he thinks something is up.
Mm-hmm.
And Roddy Piper's like, what the hell? And then like runs off from the magazine stand when the guy says, you got to pay for that.
Yeah, the interaction here is strange and I think notable because did you guys ever read? There's a Dean Koontz novel called Twilight Eyes. That's essentially the same premise.
Yes, I think I did. Yeah.
Basically, it's a lizard people story about people a parallel society to ours, and they feed on our suffering. So anytime that
is that the one at the carnival?
Yes.
Okay.
The deal with the story is that the main character can see them. But he lives in a small town, so he only ever met one, and it was his like abusive uncle.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
But then, like once the story follows him as he enters the larger world. He leaves his small town behind, and just the world's basically run by these monster people.
Yeah, they're pig people, right?
I can't remember
Something
the description.
like that. Yeah, I remember a description as being like piggish eyes and tusks or something. Yeah.
But that's what was in mind when I was watching this, and I thought how much less interesting this interaction was than in Twilight Eyes.
Yeah.
Because he's having it revealed to him, which granted the character doesn't understand yet.
Yeah.
No, he's very confused. But
and the character is clearly a moron.
Yeah. Yes. He may very well reach the end of the film not having yet realized that these monsters have taken over society. Yeah. But
he does know that he wants to shoot them.
Yeah, yeah. But also I'm not sure what the monster's motive is in this scene, because he does seem to be just a guy buying magazines who's getting looked at weird.
I think this is really a thing of like, if we were to examine kind of the in-universe version of it, this guy thinks, oh, there's a fucking crazy homeless dude.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping my eye on him.
Right. Now, and in the scene, he looks like a hot 80s dude, though. You gotta remember, he's got the mullet all done up. But also, so this scene in Twilight Eyes is very much more like the scene later in the shop where all of the weird aliens are looking at him.
Yeah.
You mean in like 15 seconds?
Yes.
Yeah, let's get to that scene.
Okay.
It's a good segue.
Proceed.
So so after he leaves the magazine rack, Roddy Piper stumbles into a fancy grocery store, and virtually every person inside it, with the exception of the workers, is a fucking ghoul.
Yeah.
Like I think there's only one customer that isn't a ghoul, and he's a guy talking to a ghoul saying, I really need to do something about this. And the ghoul says, no, man, tell him, so you can get that promotion.
Right.
Oh, it's the ghoul trying to buy him into.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to recruit him.
Mm-hmm.
I know I wanted to, something Stan said earlier that we didn't dive into as much. What do you think the ghouls' role is in this society? Like, are they eating people until there's no people left on Earth and then moving on to another planet? Or
I don't think they're eating people. And maybe I got that wrong, but I think they are literally partners with our extant ruling class in the exploitation of our natural resources. But what our ruling class doesn't know or doesn't care about is the fact that when the what we today know would be a climate crisis happens, whatever the end of the road is, they're just going to move on and leave our ruling class behind to die with the rest of us.
Which is directly addressed at the end of the movie. Like, it was utterly fucking shocking to see this 1988 movie where John Carpenter is laying out increases in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and warming.
Yeah, although he does frame it as they were deliberately turning our atmosphere into theirs where they could live here more comfortably. But
but it does sound like, it does seem like a lot of them are just living normal lives among us.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just weird.
Well, yeah, so they establish, I think actually in the scene or very soon, that we are their third world.
Yeah, that's exactly what.
So they're like colonizers, basically. Yeah,
yeah, it's similar to like American businessmen living in South Korea, I guess. Like, South Korea in, post Korean War, this kind of like they're part of the society and they're
above it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is very much, and God knows if Carpenter ever did this much reading about it, but this is like fully within social theory about how you have the core of a civilization, and then the It's another version of colonies, but the extractive places you bring materials to the core from. You have to have people from the core to manage those fucking savages that you're pulling all the value away from.
Yeah. You also the kind of the rule book is you uplift some kind of hated minority to be in control, and that way the hated minority relies on the outside like violence to secure itself. If they ever stopped paying up, they'd be fucked because the locals would kill them. But
see the Rwandan genocide,
exactly,
for example.
Guys, I'm not a fan of it.
No,
it's bad.
I think it's a bad.
Yeah, I think it's a bad setup.
I think all the things capitalism leads us to do are generally poor impulse.
Let's just keep doing it forever anyway.
Yeah.
Seems like a good idea. So Roddy Piper freaks out when he sees everybody in this, and he's stumbling around this expensive grocery store. And this is the point where he yells at a lady that she looks like she got her face dunked in nacho cheese in 1957.
Yeah,
some great one-liners in this scene.
And
disagree. That's the worst one-liner in the film.
I love them.
In a film full of bad one-liners, that's the absolute. I actually don't think the one-liners are that bad generally. I just think they're completely fucking out of place.
Yeah, I feel like they were ad-libbed. I know he was doing ad-lib because I know the kick-ass and chew bubblegum thing was all Roddy.
Yeah.
So let's just say to get a kick-ass and chew bubblegum, you gotta spend a formaldehyde face and a cheese dip.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, although it is telling because I had the same reaction. I hadn't watched the movie in years, but you're actually getting the kick-ass and chew bubblegum line backwards, which I also got backwards. It's like its repetition in pop culture has been the better,
has twisted it.
Has been the better form of
Mandela
I'm here to
effect.
kick ass and chew bubblegum, but he actually says I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Yeah,
and is a weaker line than we remember it being.
Yeah, he's stumbling around the store. He's yelling at a lady.
Yeah.
He says to a clerk who's like, "Sir, I think you need to leave." And he says, "No, you're okay." And then points at somebody else. This one, real fucking ugly.
Yeah,
that's a good
not cool.
line.
Not cool.
He is just really shaming everybody's bodies.
Yeah, it's not
their bodies, just their weird alien faces.
Yeah, it's not the critique.
Yeah.
That
you see, I take these glasses off. She looks like a regular person, doesn't she? Put them back on, formaldehyde face. Like, it's fucking garbage.
Yeah, it's like, all right, it sounds like your glasses are fucked up. I don't know what you.
I feel like they just let Piper rant.
Yeah,
I think
like he was doing a wrestling promo at this point, and it's got a charm you can't deny.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, one thing I will say for this movie, 1,000% over last week's project, Mute, which, if you recall, audience, there were a whole of 2 quotes on the IMDb quote page.
Sure.
This movie has basically the entire script on there because every line is either hilarious or just perfectly iconic.
Yeah.
I mean... So he causes a ruckus. He sees a lady pull her watch up to her face and press a button on it and say, "I've got one that can see."
Yeah.
And then
I thought this scene was like really beautifully shot, really awesome.
Yeah.
When everybody turns and looks at him and they all have the alien faces.
Yeah.
It was pretty chilling.
It's very creepy.
Yeah. Yeah,
there's also a weird, I don't know what special effect they use to achieve it, but there's this weird, almost like it's almost like they're painted on the film. Like their faces don't look like they're present in the shot. They look like they're imposed somehow.
I tried to do a little research and couldn't find any information on what exactly their process was for the black and white shots.
Yeah.
Because it's clearly like, if you've watched a lot of black and white movies, it's clearly not just oh, they put in black and white film.
Yeah.
They did some sort of processing to it, and I cannot figure out what the hell it is. And there's, as far as I can tell, no information on it online. You can tell
it looks like TV black and white. Like,
yeah, it's almost like they recorded on video instead of film, but it's not, because it's clearer than that. But yeah, it's
definitely eerie. Like, I'm looking at some of the stills of the scene right now. It's.
They have like a praying mantis quality to them. That's you feel like they're about to eat him,
because the movie's so silly and goofy, and then it goes to super creepy. So
yeah, like I could see a kid in '88 like walking into the room while his parents are watching this, and that scene giving him nightmares for the rest of their life.
1,000%, and it's something we discussed on the watch along, is that the ghoul faces, like, in just raw terms, the special effects, like kind of the makeup or the masks,
I think it's a mask,
kind of suck for 1988.
Yeah.
But it somehow works. I mean, because like 1988, we're a year after Predator with fucking, cool animatronic grabbers on its mouth.
Right.
And we're 10 years after Alien, for God's sake.
Yeah.
The special effects kind of suck.
They had to spend that money on the train, dude.
But Christ, it works so well. Like, when you put them in that eerie black and white, I mean,
I wonder if maybe the reason the black and white looks odd is because that's something they discovered in post, like that it was really improved by being in black and white.
I'm also looking at these stills of the masks in that grocery store scene, and they're heavy use of lights reflecting from the eye shades that are in the mask, which I think is a big important part of making them look. It looks like their eyes are glowing, but as far as I can tell, it's just lights reflecting in them.
Which
is it looked to me like the glistening kind of bulbous eyes of a praying mantis kind of thing.
Okay, so he heads back out onto the street after having the shit scared out of him in the store. He gets out just in time to get tackled by some cops in an alley who are also ghouls. They try and get him to come along peacefully. They're saying shit like, maybe, this is just a misunderstanding. Come with us. And on my second watch, I was like, oh, are they trying to recruit him to, be like the bearded guy in the homeless camp? Or are they just trying to get him so they can shoot him?
Yeah.
It could be either. Doesn't matter. He instead does some wrestling at them and blows them the fuck away with their own guns.
Yeah.
Like, without remorse at all.
He goes from 0 to 60 in no time flat. He's like, okay.
He goes from 0 to cop murderer.
Yeah.
No time flat.
And this is like, this is a thing that, people today will often say, you couldn't make that film today. And they'll be totally wrong because they'll be referring to just something that's completely whatever normal. But this film, I really don't know that you could shoot that scene today.
No,
it would be tough to get away with.
You could, but it would it would be an HBO prestige. It would be Breaking Bad if you did it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not.
It would be 1,000% unrated, not shown in theaters.
Yeah.
Plus, you couldn't make it today because Rowdy Piper's dead.
That's
also true.
Yeah.
Also, I think it takes longer than a day to shoot a whole movie.
Yeah.
True.
I mean,
maybe not.
You'd have to get to LA and like rent cameras. I don't know. It seems like that would take
that train
more time.
situation sorted out.
Oh shit!
Yeah, that takes some time.
Yeah.
So he murders these cops in cold blood, grabs the shotgun from their fucking cruiser, and immediately walks into a bank.
Well, now we're in like iconic They Live outfit.
Yeah.
Shotgun, tucked in flannel shirt into jeans, mullet blowing in the wind, and Ray-Bans on. This is
and
peak.
Fully in mass shooter mode.
Yes, fully.
Like
completely irredeemable in his like thought process, I think. Yeah, which is what you forget when you're examining this film from memory many years later, is that like all he knows is that they're ugly. Like he has not put anything together. He's only seen an ugly person and then gone into a bank with a shotgun.
Yeah. Do you want some copium on how I put that together? These creatures, their natural visage is so repulsive that you instantly feel a sense of dread and just a knowledge that they must be eradicated from the planet.
Yeah. I guess if they tie into, there's a Doctor Who, The Impossible Astronaut, you could probably...
Oh, yeah.
You could do something with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, in reality, he really just has gone on a murder spree because things look different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This movie could have been... You could have made this not a science fiction movie and just had him never see an Asian person before and then go on a murder rampage. Like, it would make as much sense.
Yeah, it really would. Actually...
Until he gets Keith David to talk some sense into him.
Yeah. That's the counterpoint. I will say that the counterpoint is there are not a lot of shots in this movie that don't feature like a diverse cast of people. Like I think to its credit. I just think it's weird his justification for mass murder, but proceed.
Yeah. So he walks into this bank. Turns out it is filled with a bunch of fucking ghouls. Also a couple of normal people, but mostly ghouls. And he says the most iconic line from this film, I have come here. It's not I've come here. It's I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Yeah.
And then he immediately starts shooting people.
He is mass shooter mode right now. Let's be fair.
Like the switch has flipped and he has gone full Columbine on people he sees as aliens.
I think the deal, right, is he stepped into the bank knowing he was going to murder people. What he wasn't expecting is everybody to look at him. And then, so when everybody looks at him, he's like, I got to say something.
Yeah.
And this was an ad-libbed line, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to see the cutting room floor. What ad-libs didn't make it?
I would love to see the cutting room floor.
I came here to fight aliens.
You have to consider that every one of these scenes that he's in was the result of John Carpenter going, yeah, that's the best version we had.
Yeah.
So he slaughters a bunch of motherfuckers, and sees one of them like dick with his watch and suddenly disappear.
Yep.
Which is important for later. He kills a bunch of people, runs out of the bank, sees a drone in the sky, making this cyberpunk again.
Yes.
Shotguns it. Says, you're here to spy on me? That's not cool, or something like that.
It's good dialogue.
Gets confronted by, and here's the point where you're like, oh, has this movie tipped over the edge into complete psychosis? He gets confronted by a cop who he sees is actually a normal person and not a ghoul. And instead of blowing this guy away, disarms him and tells him to get the fuck out of there. So this is where we as the audience
bad
know.
call. That's where we as the audience totally lose faith in him as a protagonist.
We lose it. Yeah.
We're out.
Yeah.
Then he goes to a parking garage, kidnaps a lady.
Right.
Yeah.
Meg, what's the actress's name?
I cannot remember. She was either Cagney or Lacey. Meg Foster.
Meg Foster. Yeah.
Yeah. Who has like amazingly blue eyes.
Yes. I saw that. I was looking her up. But she did the voice for Evelyn in Masters of the Universe. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and she was the live action Evelyn.
Yeah.
In the fucking Dolph Lundgren movie. Shit.
And she's coming back in the new one, or has already. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I think that's the cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's working a lot recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God bless her.
So he kidnaps this fucking random lady and forces her to drive him to her house. He tries to explain. He sounds like a crazy person because he is a crazy person.
Yeah. By tries to explain, let's be clear that there's no version of human being to whom his explanation would make sense.
Yeah, it's I wear these sunglasses and people are ugly.
Yeah.
I have to kill them immediately.
Yeah.
So goes to her place. The cool neighbor that you see at her place, the guy with a short, bearded, fat guy in an unbuttoned Hawaiian shirt, is apparently one of the producers.
Oh, nice.
Of the movie.
I got a slight vibe that was a gay couple that lived next.
Yes,
to her.
I did too.
I agree. Yeah,
and I think it was like they had like a disapproving. I think it was a joke, like the shot, because I think they were disapproving of the fact that she was with a man.
Yeah. Oh, is that that's less cool?
Yeah,
that was the vibe. No, but I think it was a joke on like a suburban like straight couples seeing a gay couple hook up. Like I think it was a twist on that. I thought it was funny.
Okay. I buy that totally. Goes into her house with her, and her house is basically Miguel Ferrer's from RoboCop, just fucking chrome and brass and glass all over the place.
Yeah, if you didn't know she was a bad guy yet, you see her apartment.
Yeah. He keeps her.
That's what my dad's apartment looked like in 1988.
Got bad news about your dad.
It was black and chrome and glass. I loved it.
So
he was having cocaine parties. I don't know if you know
this. He's never copped to that specifically, but he's gotten pretty close.
Having met your dad and known him reasonably well, that is a very believable thing, and I don't mean that in any negative way.
Yeah,
non-derogatory.
I get it.
I'd party with your dad.
Yeah, he's a good party. He's a good
I partied with him many times when I was too young to party. That's what divorced parents get you sometimes.
Yeah, 2 Christmases and early parties.
Yeah. So he continues to try and convince her, and she is actually being very reasonable. She's like,
yeah, weirdly reasonable.
She's like,
she has taken a Brazilian survive being taken hostage class.
Yeah,
she's very chill.
Yeah,
she is chill and agreeing with everything he says.
Yeah. She validates his experience. She's
like, well, you see, if I take those glasses from you, I'm going to just tell you that I see what you see. It's not going to mean anything.
Yeah.
And
to which he decides, I'll take a nap.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to crash on this very sticky leather couch.
Yeah.
At this point in the movie, Josh and I are like, scene's really long and boring. I hope something interesting happens soon.
Yeah.
And we're like, man, I wish this scene would end. And then the instant the E leaves your mouth, she throws him out a fucking window, like a picture window, over like a 50-foot cliff.
Yeah, it's an action beat straight out of Terminator. Like, it's a very solid.
It's a great stunt.
Yeah. It is beautiful, and it shows just how good John Carpenter was when he was on.
Yeah.
Like, because it's literally the second you're like, man, this scene is dragging a little. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, they found that in the edit. It's that if the reveal had been that she was like a murder robot built by the aliens, the way she throws him out that window is intense. It's good.
Yeah, it really is. So he loses the glasses there on the floor of her apartment. And he limps the fuck off and curls up in his storm drain for the night.
Yeah.
So Roddy Piper wakes up the next morning because, of course, John Carpenter apparently just likes to shoot people walking around in the morning. And goes to his job site where he flags down Keith David. Keith David is like, what the fuck? How many people did you kill yesterday? Get the fuck away from here.
Fair question.
Smart response.
Yeah. He also walks past like a wall of TVs in a department store with his face on them about being a mass murderer.
Yep.
You know. Yeah. So he takes off, and then Keith David kind of chases him down after work, and we end up in the same alley that he had stashed the glasses earlier because he needed to go get some more.
Yeah.
Because his had been left at Holly's house. So he takes some glasses. There's a funny comedy bit where there's a trash truck and he gets some glasses. Doesn't matter. And Keith David shows up and is like, here, this is your week's work. This is the best I can do. Get the fuck out of here. I don't want to be seen with you. And then begins.
Which, for the record, solid union representation. That's he's a mass killer, but he did his week of work and we owe him his money. Like that's
he's being a fucking dude.
Yeah.
I mean, and then probably the most notorious scene in the movie ensues.
Yes.
Which is
one of the most notorious scenes in movies.
Yeah.
May I take a stab at describing it?
Please do.
Please do. Yeah.
The most intense fist fight with the least stakes
yes
you have ever seen. Like it is the the entire film hinges on this as an action sequence. It's entirely why you would cast Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
And there are there's no win or lose. Nothing's going to come of it. So you're exhausted in the first 5 seconds.
It is the most ridiculous scene maybe in movies. Roddy Piper says, "Put these glasses on. You can see these scary people." Keith David says, "No." Roddy Piper and Keith David proceed to have a no less than 6-minute long fist fight about put these sunglasses on.
With multiple, more false endings than Fellowship of the Ring. Like,
yes. Yeah. The scene has become so notorious that like everybody's expecting it to be long. But when I first saw this movie, I had no idea, and I just remember being mind blown that it just kept fucking going.
Yeah. And apparently the interesting thing is production background. This was, they have a fight. Keith David puts the sunglasses on. It was only because there were some delays on the production end after Piper and Keith David had been hired. Like the movie got bumped back several months in terms of production, and they were on the payroll. They couldn't get another job because the movie was going to start soon. So they basically spent like a month and a half hanging out in John Carpenter's backyard going, let's choreograph this fight.
Nice. I will say something that they do that you don't see in a lot of movies even today is it does look like the repercussions of the fight on them is like physically present. Like they are covered in like water from like the street puddles. They're like their clothes are muddy. They're really like they look roughed up after the play.
The back of Keith David's head at one point he gets slammed into the ground, and then for the rest of the fight he's got this big like red patch on the back of his head.
Yeah. I was watching it. I was thinking if I like that's the part of a fight you don't ever remember. Is the desperate need to change clothes afterward. Like it's
yeah. Even in the next scene, something I noticed when we were watching it was you can really see like Roddy Piper, if he didn't take some actual, hits in the fight, he clearly, right before they shot the next scene when they go to the hotel, like slapped his own face a bunch of times because it has the kind of, his face in that scene has the kind of swelling that you see after a fight where even if it's not going to actually bruise up, everything's just kind of inflamed in patches because you got hit in the face.
Yeah. He knows how to sell it to the back row. That's the,
I mean, it's 6 minutes of punch, knee to the balls, put on the glasses.
Right.
Yeah, all just to get a pair of glasses on, which eventually he does.
Yeah.
Eventually the glasses get put on. Keith David sees the ghouls and the drones.
And immediately goes on a mass shooting spree for
Nope, Keith David's a little more level-headed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Keith David is the hero of the story.
He is. He honestly is.
Roddy Piper is merely the audience surrogate.
Yeah. Roddy Piper is like, well, we got to get some guns and kill him. And Keith David's like, I don't know. It seems like maybe there could be more.
Yeah.
Like we could find a different answer to this, or at least more of an answer.
Right.
So they head to a no-tell motel and hole up, limp into their room, like looking like they've been hit by buses.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, they're going to spend a whole couple of days there. They bond overnight. Roddy Piper tells this, gives this deranged monologue about how his dad fucking, I don't know, was threatening him with a razor.
Yeah.
And it's a truly weird bit of business.
It was unclear if he was, I think he was trying to, I felt like the script was trying to communicate that the aliens were replacing real people. Like his dad got replaced by an alien at some point, and that's when his dad got violent.
I think maybe that's the point, but God, it is a very weird speech.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know.
I will say the character monologues do nothing to like bring you on board. Like you're entirely bringing your own your interpretation of what's happening to
you have to throw your own reading on it because there is not a sane one implicit in the text.
It's so funny what makes a great movie, because a movie like They Live, which I think I would rank as a great movie, has so much bad in it. Just stuff that just doesn't make sense, and you're willing to overlook it if, I don't know.
Well, that's
I don't know what he did right specifically that makes it work.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's the kind of like magic like I think what Tarantino brings as a filmmaker, right, is a kind of consciousness of that quality.
Yeah.
Like Pulp Fiction famously is like the casting is part of the. I think I talked about this last time I was on, but I think it's a really magical observation that the casting was part of the character development. Like,
yeah, you're bringing everything you know about John Travolta to that movie.
You don't need to establish ahead of time that John Travolta can dance. You already know that. So
yeah,
like, but yeah, this film I think is made. I don't know that it's on purpose necessarily, but there's a lot of that quality to this where it's like he relies on the audience to get behind the characters and their motives, but he does not give you an argument that you can latch onto. But it does, like, if you're not watching this movie critically, it totally works. It's not like it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think part of that's just John Carpenter, at least through the 1980s, was an incredibly talented filmmaker.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude knows how to shoot shit and knows how to cut it together.
Yeah.
I mean, and then there's also...
I think part of what makes a conversation about a movie funny is like looking at it too closely. And that's what we're doing really when we're making fun of it. But yeah, it holds up if you're not scrutinizing it for error.
Right.
And John Carpenter's biggest hero in movies is a guy named Howard Hawks, who directed the original The Thing in 1954.
Right.
And I think it was Howard Hawks that said, the thing that makes a great movie is three good scenes and no bad ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
This movie does not adhere to that at all. I would argue that there are a bunch of arguably very bad scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
But this movie operates on a completely different level of quote marks greatness than most other movies.
Right.
This movie is incredibly watchable, even though so much of it is hot trash. I mean,
let's press on.
Okay. So, they go to a hotel room. Keith David goes out for some groceries like the next day, obviously at dawn, because the light looks good, and runs into Peter Jason, the guy from the Anarchist Collective earlier. Peter Jason says, "Hey, I'm glad I ran into you," and gives him an address for a meeting that night. And then we skip over the entire day and go to night.
They were getting all those bruises go away because they're pretty much gone by the time they get to the meeting.
Yeah. So they go.
So there's an unshot scene where they're applying like foundation to one another's faces.
Yeah, concealer and
So they go to the meeting place. There's like a biker guy with a shotgun out front.
It's like a montage set to Cyndi Lauper. Sorry, I'm still picturing it in my mind.
Yes. So they go to this meeting, and this is like many meetings I have been to a million times. In what looks like what very well could be. They just rolled the NA group out for the night. Like there's still some like coffee and donuts left over from those guys.
Yep.
And then you got a bunch of leftists arguing about how, well, no, I think we really need to start expanding our membership. Versus other people who are like, no, we need to really concentrate into people who are dedicated to the cause.
Yeah.
And
then a giant table of assault weapons and hand grenades.
Right.
Yes.
Although I will say this group has done better than a lot of leftist organizations I've witnessed and / been a part of, in that it already has some black membership, which is good.
Yeah,
That's
that
nice.
definitely helps. Yeah. They get some magic contacts to replace the glasses. So that stops us from having to look at their faces with dumb Ray-Bans on them for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
They talk to Peter Jason a little bit. He lays out the cops, and a lot of other people just sell out immediately when they're given the opportunity by the aliens. The hacker, the Max Headroom guy, is on the TV talking about climate change very directly.
Yeah.
And Peter Jason says, Frank says, "So what do these things want?" And Peter Jason says, "They're free enterprisers. The Earth is just another developing planet. Their third world." And you're like, thesis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, counter to what I've said previously, a pretty effective character monologue, I thought.
Yeah. They arm up at one of the tables full of fucking guns, and pick up one of the fancy watches.
Yep.
And we see some...
But not that fancy, a broken one.
Yeah.
That he has to repair in the field in the middle of a gunfight.
Yeah, there's a broken fancy watch.
Yep.
And we hear some like classic revolutionary debates about, do we want to do blood now or wake more people up and try to rally more support? It's like, again, it's a classic. Do we demonstrate now with 5 people who are super dedicated versus recruiting more?
Yeah.
I get the vibe from this movie that John Carpenter has been in a lot of meetings.
Right.
Like he knows how this operates.
Yeah.
Holly shows up. Surprise! How does she know how to get here? We don't know. Huh. Weird, right? And she says she talks about how since she works at Channel 54, she knows that the signal is coming from one place. And one of the other people is talking about, we need to destroy all the receivers or something. But Holly says, no, the signal that hides them is just one place. It's the Channel 54 building. And then the cops show up and shoot the shit out of everything. Peter Jason dies like that first dude in RoboCop. I mean, he is just riddled with bullets.
Yeah.
There's a running shootout. We see that long-haired Asian dude with the mustache that was in like
so
every
many
movie
movies
in the
we've covered.
1980s. Yeah. Just for a second, but we see him. They're shooting with cops down the alley. Keith David and Roddy Piper are trapped at the end of an alley. A bunch of cops are coming down. Keith David's dicking with this fucking watch. And ends up throwing it and accidentally activating the emergency portal thing.
Yeah. And did you get the impression, I'm sorry, I may be jumping ahead of you because
no, go.
The next scene is they go down and they're in some kind of like underground bunker, right? Did you get the impression that the underground thing, like that was a physical hole that connected to a place that was literally directly under them? Because
I thought it was a portal, but that kind of makes sense too.
I thought it was a portal at first, but then it's this sprawling underground complex. It was like it looked like a manhole that just went down.
Yeah, you
kind of makes sense.
You could be right. I'd never thought about that.
I don't know how that would work in the logic of the. Yeah, I don't know what the logic of that is.
And then they work their way through the tunnels to the skyscraper and can go up. That might be what happened actually.
Because it's not like it put them in like an entry lobby when they went to the portal. They were just in some random hallway.
It wasn't like they ended up in the transporter room in Star Trek.
Right.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. I never thought of that. Okay, so they end up in some fucking Austin Powers ass hallways.
Yeah. Yeah, you could very easily see one of those cars turn sideways.
Beep, 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 beep. We see some guards celebrating this huge victory over the terrorists. They're using an EVP meter from Ghostbusters to detect what? We don't know. Doesn't matter. It's just a reused prop. They're just wandering down these fucking hallways. They hear something, enter a big fancy ballroom where a guy is giving a speech.
Cool room, by the way. Yeah. With like murals on the walls and stuff. It looked neat.
Pretty weird to be connected directly to the sewers, which it apparently is. But whatever. And we get a chilling speech about how our predictions show that by the year 2025, not only America, but the entire planet will be under the protection and dominion of this power alliance.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
And the guy giving the speech is a ghoul, but nearly most people in the ballroom are humans.
Yeah, you couldn't fault them at the time they couldn't have predicted that Donald Trump would show up and drain the swamp.
Yeah, they couldn't. He was busy going bankrupt on his third New Jersey casino at the time.
He was not in cahoots with these aliens. It was not working out for him.
No.
Like, we can do better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, all of these human elite are fully in on it. The guy giving the speech is like, yeah, so we're going to extract all your resources, and you're going to like, crush these people, and you're going to get some of the side pussy off of that. But, this is about us. You're just our managers on the spot.
Yeah. As our cup floweth over.
Yeah. Yeah. And then popping out of nowhere, hand on Roddy Piper's shoulder is the bearded guy from the homeless encampment earlier, wearing a fucking tux.
Yeah.
And saying, "Oh, you guys are here. That's great. I really liked you. I sold out the first time I got the chance."
I got that sweet gig watching TV at the homeless camp.
Yeah. And he shows them around. He says, like, you guys should have really, you should have dressed better for this. Let me show you around.
Yeah.
Because he was just assuming they sold out too.
Yeah, I admit I was a little lost. It took me a second to catch up to what was that guy didn't know that they were, like, I thought he was welcoming them into the conspiracy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that he thought they were already in. Yeah.
It really didn't help that there were a couple of different guys who looked pretty similar to that bearded guy, like the guy that was hacking into the TV. He's also kind of a round-faced bearded guy.
Plus, this guy looks radically different in a suit that he does in his homeless.
Yeah, he has a real like fucking Kenny Rogers in 1990 look to him.
His name is George Buck Flower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was in a million
Back to the
things
Future
as well. Yeah,
as a bum. And Starman. Yeah.
Does he see the DeLorean pull up and then rubs his eyes and throws away his bottle of rum? Is that?
I believe that is the same guy. Yeah. Nice. So
he's in Back to the Future 2 as well. So he makes multiple appearances.
Does he see the DeLorean pull up in Back to the Future 2 and rub his eyes and throw away his future rum?
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost his digital rum.
Yeah. His Jaws 16
commemorative rum.
Yeah.
So he shows them around the complex. He shows them this big interdimensional transporter things. Turns out these guys come from a different dimension that's also like Arcturus, I think, something like that. Doesn't matter. It's exactly like the Rainbow Bridge from Thor, except Idris Elba isn't the one running it.
Yeah, which is where they get wrong.
Yeah, that would have saved a lot of trouble.
Idris Elba was like 13.
Yeah.
That's also true, yeah. Although this is actually just a couple of years before he was on AppFab. If you really want a wild time, search for Idris Elba, Absolutely Fabulous, and you will see him as an exotic dancer in 1993 or something.
Nice.
Good on him.
Yeah.
Then just watch the rest of Absolutely Fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great show.
Hard agree.
He's aware of the effect he has on women. So.
Yes. So they end up in a computer room that the bearded guy tells them controls the signal that masks everybody via satellite. And they see like the TV studio for Cable 54. And a guard is like, "Let me see your passes." And Keith David and Roddy Piper immediately shoot the shit out of him.
Yeah. Like, here's their right here's officer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is very much, this is a room that specific guy has been told multiple times not to bring tourists to.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's very much like, I'm just giving these guys a tour. I want to give them the whole show.
I want them to think I'm cool and that I have access to secret areas.
Yeah. So they shoot the fucking guard. Turns out the room's soundproofed, so the guys in the TV studio don't hear it. Beardo, the bearded guy, gives this speech about how, you got to buy in. I mean, there's, we're just livestock to them. They're going to take over anyway. There's no way to win. We gotta just, get what we can while we can, and then teleports away. And then the kill crazy.
He is a liberal in this scenario.
Yeah. He represents the Clintonian third way.
Yeah. What if we give them everything they want with absolutely no pushback? Then we might get to keep our kids in private schools. So he teleports away and disappears from the movie. And they start a kill crazy rampage through a large office building. They start clearly underground. At some point it's mentioned that they're on floor 4 or something. And eventually by the end of the movie, they're on the 21st floor, I think is the roof. And there are a bunch of cuts. So I assume they killed themselves through every level of this building because they're just running up staircases, shooting people and down hallways.
A great video game.
Yeah. That's a whole, there's a whole Unreal Tournament map that takes place.
The Channel 24 building.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they, Roddy Piper says, hey, we got to find Holly and destroy this fucking signal thing.
Yeah, thinks Holly's on. I don't understand what
he's obsessed with Holly, and Keith David's not like. He's like, what? He's not into it this much.
He's like, she's the hot babe in the movie. Clearly, she's on our side.
Yeah. So
she threw me out a window.
Yes, they run through
out a window like that in my life.
They run through a bunch of fucking offices, just shooting everybody that looks even vaguely ghoulish.
Mm-hmm. They're not double checking.
No.
Good thing Steve Buscemi wasn't there because he would have got shot.
Yeah. In their defense, at this point you're in the command center. Go ahead. Go wild.
Yeah. So they're running around. Oh, they run into Holly. Holy shit. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, the thing's up on the roof. And Roddy Piper's like, great, I'm going for the roof. Runs up some stairs.
He's like, what? Take care of Keith David for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And Keith David's like, oh, okay, so this bitch is on her side now? All right, whatever. And then she blows his brains out slightly off screen.
Yeah, it's
my biggest complaint about the movie.
That she did it, or that the way it was shot?
That it was off, that we didn't like, that Keith David's just unceremoniously dispatched. Like you said, he's the main character nearly because Roddy Piper's a moron and he's hard to identify with, whereas Keith David's like, this is the guy that's getting shit done.
Yeah.
And then he's just not in the movie anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, on the upside, there's only 3 minutes of movie left.
I know.
I did think it was an effective, shot, though. I thought it was a cool shot. The way they set it up, she's got the gun to his head, and then it, flashes to white as a scene change. I thought it was kind of cool.
No, I agree with that for sure.
And I think it's really interesting and effective if you think about it in the terms of an audience who has not put together, why was Holly at the meeting?
Why is Holly's house so nice?
Yeah, and she's the assistant program director. Obviously, she would know about this shit.
Mm-hmm.
But in a movie in 1988, well, no, she's just the hot chick that Roddy Piper has the love story with.
Yeah, they had this will they, won't they get thrown out a window thing going.
Yeah.
He got thrown out of a window for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she follows Roddy Piper up to the roof. He's about to shoot the satellite dish. She says, he's like, hey, Frank, come here. And she's like, Frank's dead downstairs.
Yeah.
And holds him at gunpoint. And basically says, yeah, I sold out. I mean, they're going to win. Why don't you sell out with me? And also a bunch of helicopters with guns show up.
Mm-hmm.
And Roddy Piper says, fuck it, shoots her, then shoots the satellite dish.
Yeah.
Gets absolutely fucking riddled with bullets.
Yeah.
Satellite dish
does not,
up.
I will say, unlike his usual performance throughout the movie, does not sell that he's being gunned down.
No.
Unlike the rest of his performance.
Yeah.
So the satellite dish blows up. He is dying on the roof of this building and flips off the helicopter that just shot him, and he blows up and dies and whatever. And then we cut to TV broadcasts, and it's like the news, and then there's like a burst of static, and suddenly it's ghouls delivering the news
in color.
In color, yeah,
they're blue.
People in bars seeing a TV and then seeing a guy at the bar that looks like a fucking ghoul. And then the very last bit, because this is the 1980s.
Gotta have the cheeky sex joke.
Yeah. We cut to a topless chick fucking a guy, and they're watching TV, and she sees a ghoul on the TV and says something to the guy that she's riding, like, look at this, and looks down at him, and he's a ghoul.
Yeah.
Credits.
And he's like, what's the matter, baby?
Yeah.
And you're like, ah ha ha, she was having unconsenting sex with an alien.
So aliens are attracted to human women. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because we're not attracted to them.
Right.
What's wrong? Why are they such freaks?
They're ugly.
Not to kink shame the aliens.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the movie.
I mean, that alien at the end could be a pervert.
Yeah, he could just be a pervert among his own kind.
Yeah.
That could be the equivalent of bestiality for what we're.
Yeah.
What a sick freak.
Yeah.
Anyway, perfect movie.
Perfect movie, 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Two thumbs way up.
What a journey it's been.
Yeah. I got to say, so I think, not to immediately derail us into the downer convo, but yeah, I'm going to do that.
Do it.
Right.
I feel like I mentioned at the top that there's like I was playing into the anti-Semitic tropes of the film, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there was a concerted cultural effort in like the 70s and 80s to like tie anti-consumer stuff to this kind of like Ezra Pound anti-Jewish stuff that entirely relied upon the acceptance of the like presentation of Jewish people as being like money grubbing, usurers, and like made it really difficult, I think, for kind of like anti-capitalist critique in the mainstream for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think this movie runs aground on that a lot. Cause even I, as like an anti-capitalist, like modern viewer, watch it and I'm like, does this movie is this movie saying, fuck the rich, or is this movie saying fuck the Jews? Like, I don't, I'm not.
Yeah, it's a really I was talking about this on the Discord earlier today, that after like through something, I'm not sure what, after like the 90s, it became like, I used to really enjoy researching conspiracy theories and shit like that and fucking number stations, all sorts of shit. And then sometime after, like, I don't know.
You used to listen to Art Bell, is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. After peak X-Files, it suddenly became clear to, I think, a lot of people, like, something about the conspiracy theorist mindset changed, and it became just a one-way fucking road to David Icke, lizard people, anti-Semitism, white supremacy.
Right.
And prior to that, like, it was not like it was not intimately connected with that stuff.
Does anybody know, was there any accusations of this film at the time of
I mean, I
anti-Semitism?
have to assume there were, but I don't know.
I didn't see anything about that. It was not well received at the box office.
So I saw it was number one on its opening weekend.
Yeah, it was number one on its opening weekend, which is not like fucking number 2 was Rattle and Hum by U2. It wasn't exactly a blowing up box office at the moment.
No.
There is this X post from John Carpenter himself. They Live is about yuppies and understrained capitalism. It has nothing to do with Jewish control of the world, which is slander and a lie. So at least we got that.
Yeah.
And I believe him. I want to be clear that I don't actually think that this movie is like anti-Semitic. I do think that it's like I do think it kind of stands out in the field for it's a really clear example of the kind of movie that you would see called anti-Semitic.
Yeah, and it could be easily appropriated.
Yeah.
It's a movie that can be easily fucking read that way.
Yeah.
Which is bad.
And I'm guessing it is read that way. I'm like, if it weren't for the fact that there's
a lot of people taking it that way.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the fact that there's a black person in almost every shot, it would be shown in like white supremacist groups, I'm sure.
Which thank God Carpenter did that. And just
there are innumerable like YouTube and I don't know, probably fucking Instagram reels and stuff of John Carpenter yelling at people for misinterpreting this movie as anti-Semitic.
Right.
He is like, I don't think he's actually said, I made a mistake in terms of presentation.
And I don't think he did. I think the criticism would be totally like inauthentic. Like I think it is like a ironically, a sort of blood libel that's laid at the
he
anti-capitalists' feet.
He very much is like, no, you motherfuckers are misreading this.
Right.
This is anti-capitalism.
I also liked his response to, because another weird read of a Carpenter film is Halloween. There's a lot of like interpretations of that it's a moralistic like condemnation of teens having sex, and he came out really clear and was like, I perceive these as normal teenagers and am not criticizing them at all. The terror is that they're being attacked for no reason. Like,
and also when a couple of weeks ago he was confronted with somebody saying, what happened with Escape from LA? His response was, fuck you.
I don't know the context for that. What was that about?
He's a guy at like a panel at a Comic-Con was like, I love Escape from New York. What the fuck happened with Escape from LA? he immediately yells, fuck you, and double flips the guy off.
Nice.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, like if you are somebody who is given to anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, you would look at this and it would be pretty hard for you to not think that. But if you're someone like myself, and I would assume like John Carpenter from the sounds of it, who just, your brain's not in that place. That you'd be like, fuck you, it has nothing to do with that. Right. So yeah, it's just one of those unfortunate coincidences, I guess. We gotta rate this bad boy. Unless
1 second.
All right. One more second.
The box office this weekend. Okay, this opened at number 1. You want to hear what else was at the box office?
No, do it quick.
Number 2, U2 Rattle and Hum. Number 3, a movie I had to click through to find out what it was. Everybody's All American. Anybody remember that?
Nope.
No, of course you don't. It is a college football movie starring Dennis Quaid and Jessica Lange.
Pass.
Gone? Yeah. Number 4, The Accused. Number 5, another John Carpenter film, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Yeah.
I believe he just produced on it.
Yeah, he got $25,000 and played a video game about it.
Yeah, picking his own pocket there.
According to what I saw, this was supposed to come out opposite of that, but they pushed it back a week, so it wasn't directly competing.
Nice.
Yeah. Number 6, something called The Good Mother. Number 7,
probably the prequel to The Good Son.
Oh, that makes sense. Number 7, finally something that I actually recall, Mystic Pizza.
Oh yeah,
Julia Roberts breakout.
Wow, that was a lot earlier than I'm having trouble seeing these two films coming out at the same time. That's interesting.
Yeah, just imagine hopping from theater to theater. Go from this to Julia Roberts. Number 8, Gorillas in the Midst.
I remember that one. That was huge.
Number 5, Punchline, which I think was I think that might have been the Lenny Bruce biopic with Dustin Hoffman.
Interesting.
Yeah. Number 10, a movie that we might actually have to cover on the show one day, Alien Nation.
I didn't know this movie. I thought it was a TV show.
Oh, it was a movie first, and then that became a like syndicated TV show.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like a bunch of other shit, and then like number 13 was Last Temptation of Christ.
Huh.
Cool.
So weird fucking week at the movies in 1988.
Yeah, but Carpenter pulled out the number 1 spot.
He did.
Well deserved.
All right, we're gonna rate it, and then we're gonna go.
Yes.
The story. Okay, just to remind Stan, we've got 5 categories. This is very easy. I don't know why anybody could ever forget this. We got 5 categories. 4 of them are a 1 to 10 scale, and 1 of them is a 1 to 5 scale.
Right.
So for the first,
which is very simple.
I immediately get it. Yeah.
The first category is a story. What did we think of the story of They Live?
Can I request the names of all the categories first?
Can you request?
So we've got story as one category. What are the other categories?
Influence, prescience, style, and then the 1 to 5 is just like a general like stars rating. How much did you like it?
Got it. Ooh, story. Man, it earns points with me for being anti-capitalist. I don't know that it was communicated well. I feel like I did most of the heavy lifting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give it all right. Story in simple terms, guy finds sunglasses, can see that the ruling class is lizard people, and It kills them. I like it. I'll give it a 9.
Yeah.
I mean, when you describe it like that,
yeah,
it's hard not to love.
That is almost exactly how I was going to break it down. I was 8.5. It is an incredibly simple story. It fucking moves at 90 goddamn minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
when it slows down, it's almost as a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like fucking a full 6 of those minutes is 2 idiots having a fist fight in an alley about put these glasses on. Like it's the, in terms of plot, it is just about the simplest fucking movie we have ever covered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm going with 8 just because I think it's a little simple. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I don't think it needs to be any more complicated.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
I think in a field so bereft of like contemporary works, you kind of need you gotta do the Econ 101 before you can get into the hard shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this film does the Econ 101, I think.
To show, we also gave RoboCop an 8, so like it's in good company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
RoboCop's better than this.
As overall as a film?
Oh, influence. Oh, yeah, I think RoboCop's better.
Yeah. I think maybe it's a little less fun than this, but yeah, I think it's a better movie. Yeah.
It's a better message too, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
is not hampered by Roddy Piper.
Right.
You're being really fucking hard on the Piper this episode, Josh. I don't think I'm going to stand for it.
All right.
I think he
take him to the
delivered
squared
exactly. Yes, he delivered exactly what was needed from this film, and I don't think any of those guys on the list would have done as good a job.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think they would have looked at the script and said, "How do I fucking deliver this line?"
Exactly, and he just fucking says it.
He just says the fucking line.
He does, in fact, just say it.
All right, influence. This is a weird one for me because, like I said at the top, this film is hugely influential in my local environment. Yeah. So I don't think it has that kind of reach.
I think nationally. You're fair to factor that in, though.
Yeah, and I mean, something I didn't mention earlier is that if you remember from fucking 12, 15 years ago, the Shepard Fairey street artist who ended up doing a bunch of Obama posters that said hope, he broke out with Andre the Giant with a big line under it that says obey. I mean, that made him an artist.
Yeah. I mean, I was in a local like rap artist music video that referenced he had magic sunglasses in the video.
Oh, sweet.
And I played like a FBI agent who was like pulling him into a van.
Well, also, that's the most believable thing I've ever heard. Stan as an FBI agent.
Also, chew bubblegum and kick ass. Like,
yeah,
I've heard that my whole life.
I'm gonna go 8.5.
And I this is a movie that, like I said when we were watching it, I haven't seen until this week. I hadn't seen this movie since VHS was the dominant form of home media. And I didn't have I didn't remember it fondly from then.
But you've never seen a cultural reference to it and not grasped it.
Yeah, and the thing is, I cannot deny this movie is incredibly influential culturally.
Yeah.
I just was under the mistaken impression that it was a cultural reference point, like, say, The Room.
Right.
Like, I can identify references to The Room left and fucking right.
Yeah. You were living in a fool's paradise.
Yes. So, yeah, I'm going to say, influence is 8, even though most of that influence has not been on movies at all.
Yeah, I was actually going to go 9.
Nice.
Yeah, as opposed to most of our stuff where I'm like, oh, this movie influenced these other movies.
Yeah, this is far more of a pop culture influencer than an actual film influencer. That's a good point to bring up. Prescience. It predicts a future that maybe hasn't fully happened yet, but I can definitely see happening in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a full-on Luigi.
Full-on Luigi.
Roddy Piper got those glasses and was like, I'm going to Luigi this motherfucker.
Oh, God, we didn't even make that connection till now. That's amazing.
And, even though the reference to climate change was like the aliens doing it deliberately for their own atmosphere, like, it is like way ahead of its time in recognizing
Yeah.
Like I'm going to give it a 10 on that.
You know, we've said that before, but I've looking back, like RoboCop mentioned it, which was about the same time. There were people talking about climate change in the late 80s.
Predator 2.
Yeah.
Predator 2, but it's just like people were ignoring it because it's unpleasant to think about, much like we do today. It's just a little bit harder to ignore when your fucking cities are burning down.
Yeah, I was also, even before Stan said it, I was going to go 10 for prescience.
I can get on that train, that $12,000 train that we have to do twice.
Oh, fuck.
Let
me call the conductor.
I think They Live is pretty stylish, even though when compared to some other things we've watched, style is our final category. The sunglasses, iconic. The lavender tank top with the sleeveless jean jacket over.
Oh, and I didn't even mention that later Keith David is wearing a beautiful fucking purple sweatshirt.
Yes.
Like, man, that guy's skin tone goes with fucking everything.
The tucked in flannel, tight tuck, no matter how many hours of fight scenes you're doing.
Yeah, I like the style in the film. But I like it in that way that none of it really was jarring or jumped out at me or called my attention to it. So I don't know that that's a high ranking. I'll say 7.5.
That's fine. These rankings mean nothing.
I disagree. I think they're very important.
Thank you.
I'm going 7 because partially for the stylistic choice of the black and white in sunglasses vision.
Yeah.
And just how off-putting that is.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with 7.5 too, just because.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, on a scale of 1 to 5 hand raisers, because it's a cyberpunk podcast, we don't use stars.
Okay.
No.
How much did you like They Live?
3?
You're going to go 3?
Yeah.
I'm going to go 5.
I'm 4. So.
Wow. Okay. We ran the gamut.
It's a little, this is maybe on me, but it's a little elementary. I didn't think it was.
It is kind of clown baby shit.
Yeah. That's why I like it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I kind of enjoy it for that reason.
I recognize the problem with him just blasting people because they're ugly, but yet I also really enjoy him blasting ugly aliens away.
It left me hungry for like real meaty critique of society.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It left you hungry for RoboCop.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I am giving it a full extra point simply because I had no memory of this movie being as entertaining as it was.
Mm.
The surprise factor.
I've spent the past 20 years going, yeah, They Live. All right, sure. The same way I do to The Room. And, it's like, oh, yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, move on. Did not remember this movie being
seen The Room.
As dumbly smart as it is.
Dumbly smart. I think it's a movie that is needed in these times of dummies watching movies. But the problem is they'll just think it's an anti-Semitic allegory. So maybe I'm wrong. Can't have anything fun.
Well, anyway, thank you, Stan. Would you like to promote the stuff that you do?
Yeah.
I feel like your listeners are familiar with we have a podcast called Astronomica that where we play a role-playing game called Stars of That Number, and it's fun. And we have a good time. We make jokes. That's really all.
What's your job on that podcast?
It's hard to say. They call me Star Daddy.
I think that says it all.
Against my will. And I sometimes lose track of how weird that name is, but
I love it.
I agree.
Admittedly,
it's
only a fluke of culture that Dungeon Master doesn't have that same.
That's true.
Connotation.
And in certain situations and underground clubs, it probably does have that.
Yeah.
Good point.
I have had the weird experience of playing like a new online game and entering a name and Star Daddy being taken, which is mind blowing.
Who is this usurper?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, check out Astronomica. We plug them a lot. We also have a channel on their Discord. So at astronomicapodcast.com, you can
and
talk to us and them.
Hey everybody, your friendly neighborhood editor Eric here. We forgot to mention what we were going to do next week, so that's what this is. We were talking on the Discord and had some requests for a very popular early 20-teens giant robot in a cyberpunk world. You know what we're talking about. It's everybody's favorite giant robot movie. It's Hugh Jackman's Real Steel. So get excited for that. Apologies in advance. Probably, I don't know. It's got a pretty high tomato meter, so maybe it's okay. I hope. We'll do Pacific Rim another time, I promise. Bye.
Just specific to Stan, I want to say that Stan is a great fucking star daddy, as I played in his Stars Without Number game this last year at Astronomica.
Hell yeah.
And had an amazing time solving a first ed D&D dungeon.
Yeah. That was a good time.
It sounds.
It really was.
They did Tomb of Horrors with laser rifles. It was fun.
Yep. It was a great fucking time.
All right, I think we did it.
We did it.
We did it.
I'm sure Josh has a quote to send us out on this time.
Oh, I don't. Does this movie have any fucking quotes? Oh shit.
Got one or two.
Well, I guess I'm probably here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Excelsior.
This has been the High Tech Low Life Podcast. Find us on Twitter at Johnny60seconds, email us at hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com, and find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Theme music by Nihilor at nihilor.com. Thank you for listening.
Keep it moving. Come on, what are you waiting on? Let's go.
They're trashing our rights, man! They're trashing the fluid data! They're trashing! Hide the planet! Hide the planet!
Shut up and get in the car.